record to the. Yes, it is. Hi, Kaylin. Can you hear me okay? Okay, cool. Well, welcome. I feel like I haven't seen you in like forever, but it really hasn't been that long. Just like, you know, a Tuesday ago. Yeah, a Tuesday ago. But I feel like, you know, the summer has happened in that time. So I told a few of you just earlier, if you weren't in the room, this is allergies. I am like dealing with a massive allergy attack. I have taken 2 COVID tests. I'm totally clear. But if you're like, just in case, put that mask on, I'm happy to put a mask on. But I have confirmed it's allergies. I took an Allegra and it's like so much better than it was. So yeah, if I'm just like sounding lovely, it's allergies. We're here, we're gonna do pranayama and meditation today, starting with pranayama, then we'll give you a break, and then meditation. The format really is, so this here today is really to kind of give you background information and talk about what pranayama is, what meditation is, what they aren't, things like that. And then after, I didn't know that made noise. Okay. And then after that, I'll release 2 recordings for you. So one recording or one batch of recordings is pranayama, where there's more pranayama practices for you to do. And then the same thing with meditation. And the idea with those is really, I would like you to take your time with them. Okay. Rather than just trying to check off the boxes like, yep, did that practice, did that practice, did that practice. Okay. And we'll talk more about it as we get moving, but I'd love to hear from you all for a check-in. And so in the check-in, of course, just how are you? I feel like I haven't seen you in forever. And I'm like, for some reason, I was just like, what am I even walking into? Like, who are these people? Because last weekend I was with Extended for like 2 days. So I'm like, okay, different hat, put on different brain. So yeah, I'm just super excited to be here with you. So let me know how you are. One success from since the last time I saw you, and then if you have any experience with pranayama or meditation, and just, you know, like what your experience level is with it. Okay. And it could be nothing, and that's perfect. Cool. Kaylin, do you want to go first since you're like right here at my left hand?
Good morning. Doing good. I'm feeling a lot better. I'm just waiting the full 14 days before I come into classes because I want to be safe rather than sorry. I think one success I've had is I feel like I'm pretty good on getting good at the distance and memorizing it, and mastering saying it to myself all the time. Yeah, I'm excited to learn about breathwork today and meditation.
Nice, thank you. Are you feeling better?
Yeah, I feel almost 100%. I feel like stuffy in my face, but other than that, like I feel fine. And I'm just kind of I've been hanging out, and I still wear a mask when I go out. If I go out, I just want to be safe.
Yeah, I get it. Thank you. All right. Anybody want to start it off in here? Awesome. Thanks, Laura.
So I'm still waking up, but overall the success has been is that we got our house.
Yay.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. And so are you still moving?
Yeah.
Okay. Where are you moving to?
North Carolina.
North Carolina. Okay. Cool. Well, congrats.
Yeah. And experience with pranayama, I'd say like intermediate. I've been practicing yoga for about 7 years, so meditation and breath work have been scattered and sprinkled along there, just whatever the teacher decides to throw in that day, you know?
Sure. Nice. Thank you. I'm happy for you. Which way are you sending it? Hi.
So everything is kind of coming along slowly. It's not easy. Yes, you know, as I expected. Everything is hard for me. For the meditation, I still haven't got into it. So just need to practice.
We see you have a new color there, new color cast.
Look at us. They want to torture me, so I'm on it.
I'm on it. Too funny. Oh, I'm glad you're here. Did you lock the door? I think everybody's here now. Yeah, I'll go lock it. Awesome.
Thank you.
Hi.
I'm feeling a little tired, but I think I've come a long way in the sequence. So that would be my success. And as far as experience, I have taken quite a few classes, like meditation classes. So I don't practice on my own at home, so I'm excited to kind of learn more about that and really start doing that.
Awesome. Cool. We're gonna bump back to ARPA.
I've taken lots of classes too and observing, so that helps throughout with the sequence and gathering positives from different teachers helps a lot. And what helped me was I focused on yoga for in-betweeners too. So different levels of yoga I try to observe and gain lots of insight. As far as that was my success. Oh, meditation, I'm very excited because I'd like to incorporate that to another industry that I'm gonna work in. And as much as I love yoga, I think it's easier to apply meditation grounding for like clients that I will be serving. So I'm very excited because, again, as much as I love to practice, I'd like to incorporate the meditation piece. That's where I'm headed. And I really believe in it. Like, I feel like even if you're visiting a hospital, there has to be some type of meditation, something, because sometimes like finding parking and so forth, and people just want you to go in and express like what you're going through or a clinic, like a therapy or I think if prior they do some type of meditation, it'll help, it'll almost make the therapeutic work in a sense more deeper, much better, like more worthwhile.
Mhm.
So that's why I'm very excited for meditation.
I'm doing good today. I feel really confident in the sequence and just like teaching in a way that feels natural and not like forced. And I don't have very much experience with meditation and pranayama. I've been doing more chanting because of our chakra nights, but that's about it.
Nice.
I'm feeling okay today. A little bit tired, but I think I'm fine. I'm getting more confident with the sequence as far as like saying it. From yesterday, it helped a lot. We were all online, me and the other girls. We were able to do it together, and it just made me feel comfortable. For breathwork and meditation, I try to do it every now and then. It's the hardest thing for me to do, but I'm excited to learn more about it in a different way.
Cool.
Hi, hello. I'm feeling okay, a little bit tired today. I'm happy to be back, still happy to be back after yesterday. One success is like last night, I video checked my friend and then I successfully just to show her headset. And then I'm like really happy about that. Been practicing for a while for that post and then, yeah, and I did quite some meditation before, but not very successful, and that's just my experience.
All right.
I would say my success is that I feel like I definitely know the sequence, like the inhales and the poses. that's nice. And then as far as meditation, I mean, I guess I've had a personal practice for like about 6 months. That was pretty consistent. It's gotten a little less consistent now that we're in this program, but I'm excited to actually learn more about it.
Awesome.
I'm doing okay this morning. I think I'm still waking up a little bit. I would say my biggest success like this past week has just been showing up for things. Like even if I'm not in the mood for it, I'm showing up and I'm trying to be as present as possible. So giving myself kudos for that. In terms of the sequence, I'm sitting down this afternoon and trying a new technique to help memorize because I kind of had a little breakthrough yesterday that like if something's not working, instead of forcing it, I should just try something else.
Yes.
And so I'm gonna put my note cards to the side and try writing out a script. And then my experience with meditation is like clinical, I guess. Like I've done it a lot in therapy. And so I'm excited to kind of learn about it, like Cassandra said, in a new way.
Nice. Cool.
Hi. So in regards to yoga, I would say my success this week is being consistent with my personal practice, just practicing that, and it's helped with the sequence a lot. And I'm really excited to share that I finished writing my book, and I sent it off to my first agent this week. So fingers crossed. Let's see how that goes. But I'm really happy about that because the last week of editing was torturous. So yeah, that is really exciting for me. And meditation. I found out about meditation when I was like 19. I'm 24 now. My meditation practice is very inconsistent, but I really enjoy it and I love your meditations. So I'm really excited to learn from you. So yeah.
Nice. Yeah, the meditations are different than the chakra meditations that we'll do, but
I'm sure it'll be just as great.
yeah, I love meditations. So I'm gonna spin this around to you. How are you doing, Rachel?
Hi, everyone.
Yes,
Hello,
everyone.
Sorry, usually there's like 3 or 4. I'm sorry, I'm kind of all over the place too. I had such a crazy, it seems like the summer has just been so crazy. So I'm still kind of waking up too this morning. I love meditation. It's one of my favorite parts of yoga. It actually is what brought me to teacher training. I started with more of a meditation practice than an asana practice. And it was just really helpful at that point in my life to help me grieve. I was having trouble kind of processing my grief in a lot of ways. And meditation just kind of gave me that safe place to process that in a unique way. So yeah, I have a really interesting relationship with meditation. And in some parts of my life, it hasn't been as effective as it was in that one moment. So I kind of go through little ebbs and flows with meditation where I attach to it really strongly. And then sometimes I don't really feel as much. So don't beat yourself up if you don't get attached right away, or if you have moments like that, because I think that's totally normal throughout your life to like have those ebbs and flows in your practice. But this week in particular, I've just been not beating myself up for not being as connected to my asana practice as I normally would be. I've been sort of suffering from so many different little illnesses over the last like 3 or 4 months, as well as allergies, and my stamina just hasn't been what it should be. And even though I'm not going to classes as much, I have to remind myself every day that I'm still practicing yoga in so many other ways throughout my day. And if I didn't do asana that day, it's not the end of the world. So yeah, I'll just share that with you. Hopefully you can feel some of that too. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. My asana practice has definitely shifted. Definitely shifted with my son home from school for the summer. So yeah, it's been interesting to say the least. But you know, just to give you a little background, I actually came into yoga from meditation. God, how long ago? More than 20 years ago. During a period of my life that was kind of an upheaval and all kinds of weirdness, I found myself in a Buddhist sangha and was like, this is interesting. And we did all kinds of meditations, and it was like the first time that I was like, oh, I'm going to be okay. So that really stuck. And then I found yoga, and it was just like, yeah, that fits. That all works together. And that just kind of started my whole path. I eventually did a Buddhist meditation teacher training. So that's really where my background is, though I don't practice Buddhist techniques quite as often anymore. I do a lot more yogic meditation and breathwork, pranayama. I've taken a bunch of other trainings since then. So that's where a lot of our talk and discussion when we talk about meditation is going to be rooted in is yoga. There's lots of different types of meditation, all sorts of, schools of thought and all of that. So, everything from clinical meditation to, more spiritual stuff. So that we're going to stick in the realm of yoga and how it applies with the 8 limbs, and kind of along with pranayama as well. So with pranayama, my hope is that with the discussion and with the recorded videos that you start to develop a practice that works for you. Okay. And so it doesn't have to be a formal, wake up at 4 a.m. and start your practice for an hour, including all of the elements. I mean, it can, if that's your thing, but that's not my thing. That's not new. But really, mostly to introduce you to the practice, to introduce you to the benefits, whether it's physical or energetic or spiritual when it comes to pranayama. Get you to a point where you can explain what pranayama is to a student, explain its benefits, the different effects and things like that, as well as develop an understanding of the various techniques. And then again, like I said, hopefully to incorporate specific techniques in with your meditation practice. So, when you get to the recordings, I would like for you to first do the pranayama practices and then move into the meditations, because they build on each other. Okay. Otherwise, you can do them the other way, but it's not going to make as much sense, So just for your knowledge, I did put handouts in Classroom for you. You can follow along, or we can simply talk about it. You don't need to have them pulled up. It's totally up to you. They're more of an outline for you. But let's talk first. What is pranayama? What do you know about it? There's no wrong answers. Yes. Breathwork to channel energy movement. Cool. Were you going to say something?
Well, I think that what it translates to is energy control.
Okay. Yeah. Very good. What else? Kaylin, the only one online, so just feel free to unmute yourself and chime in with everybody else. You don't have to raise your hand or flag me down.
Okay. I kind of feel like pranayama is the control of your life force energy, because it has prana even in the first part of it, of the word. So yeah.
Cool. Thanks. All right. So yeah, a couple of you hit on it. So pranayama, when we break down the word,
Maybe intentional energy being sent to certain parts of the body for extra healing.
Sure.
Like sending breath to different parts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, different techniques can do different things. Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. When we look at the word itself, pranayama, right? So prana is your life force energy, right? It's the thing, the underlying energy that animates and moves life. Okay. But it also can be referred to as breath and respiration. And then depending on the text that you read or the interpretation of the text that you read, the other part of it can be, so we know yama, right? What are yamas? Mm-hmm. Yeah, but do you know specifically what yama is?
Your relationship with your inner self. Because is it, or is the opposite?
Discipline.
I don't know.
Discipline. It's constraint or control. Okay, so it's self-constraint, self-control. So when you look at it from that aspect, right, prana, life force control. Okay, so you're controlling or restraining the life force. But the other way that you can think of it, right, anytime you put an A in front of the Sanskrit word, so ayama means expansion or liberation. And so it can be breath control, control of the life force, or it can be breath liberation or expansion of the life force. So just really dependent on, again, the text that you read, your interpretations or interpretations that you've read, which way it goes. Both of them are correct, okay? And they both do the same thing. The practice of manipulating the breath is mentioned as early as the Vedas, so like 4,000 plus years ago, particularly the Rig Veda. But breath and asana aren't really contained together until Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. Okay, so it's like the work of doing breath and body movement together is, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, relatively new. Okay. And then in the eight-limbed path, traditionally, pranayama follows the mastery of asana. So if you were super ultra traditional, 4,000 years ago or so, you would be sitting down and you have to master the yamas first and the niyamas, okay? And then asana, and then you move into pranayama, and you don't move into the next one until you've mastered the one before. That's not how our lives work right now. So we kind of have to blend those things together, right? Because we have lives, we have jobs, we have relationships, things like that. I don't think most of our employers, except mine, would be like, yeah, cool, you're gonna sit and meditate for a year? Neat. Like, nah. What's that? Right? Yeah. Yeah. Tell us all the lessons you have learned. So, the interesting thing with pranayama is that, when I talk to students, particularly students that I shouldn't say only, but mostly have an asana practice, if I mention meditation to them, they're like, oh, I can't meditate. I can't sit still. I can't turn my mind off. Okay, I can see that, right? Meditation can be really intimidating. But pranayama is this interesting thing where the techniques and the skills along with it can take time to develop, but I could sit you down right now and tell you to breathe in a certain way, and you're going to feel the effects immediately, right? Whereas with meditation, the effects are more cumulative, right? The first time you sit down to meditate might be the most frustrating experience of your life. Might not be, but it might be. And that's most of my experience with students is like they sit down to do a meditation, they get 2 minutes in, they're like, oh, forget this. I'm going to an asana class, right? Which is totally fine. We get them in the door and then we're like, hey, here's a seed. Here's another seed. Go catch this one, right? But pranayama is like, you feel the effects immediately. So students tend to be more drawn to pranayama than they are meditation. If I tell my husband to sit down and meditate, he's like, no, that's not going to happen. But if I tell him to take some deep breaths, he's like, oh yeah, I can do that. But so knowing that, and knowing that you've probably done a lot more pranayama in your life than you really think you have, right? What are some of the effects? What are some of the physical effects that you might feel when you do a basic breath technique? Cassandra. Calm your nerves, yeah.
Also, you can also do the opposite.
Excite them. Yeah. Burst of
There's
energy.
a song that I listen to, and the way they have it, it has the beat is the breath going. So if you're singing along, you're going, and then you get all amped up and So it really breath, how you move it can really affect your mind state. It can get you amped up or calm you down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. From a physiological perspective, like physically in your body, what's happening? Do you have any ideas?
Doesn't it relax your nervous system?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it totally can relax and calm your nervous system. But what do you think happens like?
You make your lungs stronger.
Lungs?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. More breath capacity. Mm-hmm. Increases breath capacity, increases the tone of your intercostal muscles, right?
It balances out nitrogen and oxygen.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. So like, you know, that whole detox thing that your students will come to ask you about, tell them to breathe. That'll detox you. You know, okay, I was like, what? It also, you know, it'll also help you increase your perception and memory, right? When you are, let's say you're in that fight or flight state, you are not thinking about anything except running away or fighting, right? But you're in that state of panic. But, you know, we live our lives in this low fight or flight state most of the time. Simply doing some breath work helps to bring you more present with what's around you and present in the moment. And so you start to increase your perception and memory. So perception being like, I am aware of what's happening. I can see and feel and taste and touch, you know, what's around me, so that, you know, you are more present and you have this memory boost, really. It can deepen your meditation and your asana practice. Have you ever like been doing an asana practice and you're like, oh, it's such a high gravity day. I don't know why I can't balance. Warrior 2 feels ridiculously hard. This is awful. I hate it. And then you're like, wait a minute, I'm holding my breath. Let's try breathing. And you're like, oh, everything feels better now. Right? I have those days all the time. I'm like, oh yeah, you're not breathing. And let's see, muscles and nerves tonified. It actually, you know, one of the really cool things too is it can improve your digestion and elimination, because this is a good segue into where we're going next. But when you breathe, particularly when you're doing diaphragmatic breathing, your diaphragm is pulling down, right, and compressing and massaging your abdominal organs. As you do this, your abdominal muscles are getting tonified, so that when you have this tonification in your muscles and in your digestive organs, which are also muscles, right, it helps to bring more blood flow into them so that you have a better flow of all of this stuff, okay? And it's really interesting, like breath, like I said, breath is one of those things that not only can you feel pretty instantly, but it's one of those things that we can measure too, right? We can measure what's going on, the electrical impulses in your body. And if you want to, like, if you're like a science nerd like I am, and you want to know more about like the sciencey stuff behind breath, not necessarily pranayama. Pranayama and breath work, right? Two sides of the same coin, really. Pranayama is more of a spiritual practice, elevating your spiritual mind, whereas breath work is, you know, when we talk about it from like a clinical setting and things like that, breath work is going to be more of that clinical, physical, mental health, right? Whereas when we bring in the meditation aspect of it and we use the specific techniques and kriyas and things like that, it's really about energetics and more of that spiritual practice. But if you're like, I want to know like the stuff, there's a great book called Breath by James Nestor.
Oh, I've heard that.
Isn't it awesome?
Yeah.
It's such an interesting thing. He puts himself through all of these like wacky things where he like tapes his mouth shut at night just to see the effects of like, you know, breathing through your nose on a regular basis, which is mind-blowing. But it's like interesting because you can actually change the physiology. When you actually breathe through your nose, the organ that's meant to breathe, right, instead of breathing through your mouth, you can actually open up your nasal passageways and things like that. So, you know, it's just fascinating. And there's a lot more to it. And he does talk about pranayama and things like that. So it's just a really interesting book. I highly recommend it if you're like, I need to know, I want the data. Yeah.
And who?
James Nestor. It's Nestor. And the title of the book is a little bit longer than Breath. I forget the rest of it, but it's a yellow book with like some colorful bubbles on it. Okay, so basics of respiration. I'm not going to get too in depth with it because I know that Erica has pre-recorded stuff for anatomy with it, and I'm sure you've talked about it. But you know, when we talk about it from a physical standpoint, the cells and tissues in your body need oxygen, right? They need oxygen to survive and thrive. And so as we breathe in and move that oxygenated blood into the body, we are breathing in, and it's kind of like this negative space where we breathe in and the diaphragm moves down. And then as we breathe out, we push the air out and we tighten up our diaphragm. So, you know, you're getting this exchange of gas. There's three main types of breath that we're going to work with here today. And the first one is costal breathing. And so costal refers to your ribs. Okay, so it's when your ribs expand and contract, and you're using the musculature in your ribs, right? So you're using those intercostal muscles, you're using your serratus anterior, you're using some of your back muscles, things like that, to really expand and contract, excuse me, your lungs. And the ribs can expand front to back and laterally, or both, with practice. So if you're not really practiced in this particular type of breath, it can be kind of tricky to feel that, but I have a couple practices that we'll do today to help you feel some of that. And then there's diaphragmatic breathing, which you might hear as belly breathing, right? And so that's where you're pulling the diaphragm down, the ribs stay quiet, you're not really finding a lot of movement there, but the belly is pressing forward and relaxing. Okay, that's how, you know, we say breathe into your belly, but really what we're doing is we're pulling our diaphragm down and pushing our organs out. Okay. And then clavicular breathing, which is super shallow breathing up in the upper chest. And this one, whereas you might experience this a lot because a lot of us breathe up here, it's a very subtle thing, right? Because there's not a lot of air moving. And so to feel this, it might be a little bit tricky, but I've got a trick for you to feel it. And then when we talk about full yogic breath, it's utilizing all the parts of your thoracic region. Okay, so it's the clavicular, the costal, and the diaphragmatic. Questions so far? All right. So I'm going to teach you the parts of the breath, and then we're going to do a little breath awareness practice. Okay, and see if we can't get you a jolt of coffee. All right. So parts of the breath, we have inhale. So when you inhale, it's called puraka. If you want to say it, puraka. It's P-U-R-A-K-A. And then the exhale is rachaka. Yeah, so it's like a chakra, but it's rachaka. Now, in between those, right? So you breathe in, there's a pause at the top of the breath. And that retention of the breath in, or the pause between the inhale and the exhale, is called kumbhaka. But it's a very specific kumbhaka. So antara kumbhaka. And that's the inhale. Okay. And then the retention of the breath out, or the pause between the exhale and the inhale, is baya kumbhaka. Kumbhaka is, so it's a retention, it's a holding of the breath in or out, and a pranayama practice, a traditional pranayama practice, is not pranayama unless it has all four of those parts. However, kumbhaka is not appropriate for everyone to do all the time. And it's something that you really need to work up to, because you don't want to hold the breath in or out and create unnecessary stress or strain in the body or in the mind. And it's actually really, if it's not something that you're comfortable doing, you'll find one or the other is a little bit more soothing to you. But you start off with just the natural pause between the breath, right? Just the natural pause. You can visualize, I like to visualize it almost like a wave, right? So you breathe in, the wave crests, there's that slight pause, and then the breath comes down. There's a slight pause before it goes back up, right? So that's where you start. You can start to add in longer counts with it. Generally start staying with a count of 1 between each breath in and breath out, gradually working up. If you ever work up, you're like, okay, I got the 1 count. Yep, let's try the 2 count. That works, got it good. you know, and you move up to 3, 4, 5 count. If that 5 count gets really to the point where you're like, okay, I'm going to hold my breath in, right? And you have to like exhale really quickly or inhale really quickly. That's a sign that you need to slow it down and go back a count or 2. Okay. So it should never, ever, ever create stress or strain in your body. Has anyone practiced with Kumbhaka before? Yeah.
Box count breaths.
Oh yeah. How does that feel?
It can go from the like I can't catch my breath to like taking the longer pauses allows me to like, let it out slower too. Like,
yeah.
It's a progression. Like, it's not always just that you can start it and be fine.
Yeah. Cool. Anybody else play around with Kumbhaka?
I used to make my lacrosse team practice box breathing before every single practice and game. And it was really cool because I kind of got to see that when we started, they couldn't even do like 2 counts. And so it was a really kind of gradual thing. But by the end of the season, we were getting up to like 5 or 7. And so just kind of like seeing that progression with everyone.
Nice. Cool.
So when I'm like anxious or upset, I literally just stop breathing. And I don't realize that till my chest is like pounding for air. So what I had been doing like over the past few months is like this, because it like the pause between it's like what am I trying to say? It's like a healthy shift from the like, oh, I'm anxious, I can't breathe, to controlling that and like putting it somewhere productive, and it works.
Nice. Yeah, I found that it gives me that space between the cause and the effect, right? Like you can, okay, this is not happening to me, it's happening around me. Okay, I can calm down a little bit more, right?
And
like
it feels
you don't
like
have that.
It feels like it slows down time too, because like when you're upset, right, or like hyped up, time feels like it's going fast, and it's probably because you're breathing so fast. So when you do this, it gives you the opportunity to pause, like breathe slower, which slows down time a little bit in your mind as well. So, my experience.
That's awesome. There's actually, from a very traditional perspective, Kumbhaka is the time and space where you get that little glimpse of that calm stillness within yourself, right? And so whether you name it like your divinity, your own inner divinity, or your own God consciousness, or, you know, the glimpse of the universe, whatever it is that you name it, you know, when you are working with pranayama and you use Kumbhaka, it's, you know, it's almost like the surface of the water, you know, like your mind is like a pond, right? And ripples, you know, it's all the fluctuations of your mind. But when you hit that Kumbhaka, everything smooths, right? And then you breathe in and you have ripples and then it smooths, right? So it's those little glimpses of, you know, who you are, you know, that little spark. So strikes on the tuning fork. I love that. Yeah. I love that. Okay. So I'm going to explain this little breath exercise that we're going to do. And you're going to be on your back for this. Traditionally with pranayama, you're in a seated position, but for this, because I want you to be able to feel the different parts of the breath, I'm going to have you lie down, but just hang on one second. So know that you can have your eyes closed or you can have an easy gaze, but the idea is for you to really feel into your body so you can kind of note these different sensations, okay? So I'm going to have you work with the different parts of the breath for a few moments and then return. So we'll start with one part of the breath. You'll notice sensation, then you'll return to your normal natural breath. And then we'll work with the other part and so on, okay? Just so that you can see the difference. Now, I know a lot of times as yoga practitioners, when I tell you don't change your breath, that's near impossible, right? Like that was a big thing for me. Little side note, like meditation in Buddhist style is very much like you don't do anything to the breath, right? You simply watch your own natural progression of the breath without doing anything to it. And then when I came to yoga, they were like, okay, do this to your breath. And I was like, I don't understand. I'm not supposed to do that. I'm supposed to just let it do its thing. So, you know, teaching people to meditate and not let their breath do it. Like, don't make your breath do anything. And they're like, I can't do that. I'm like, I don't know why you can't do that. So, you know, just training your brain for different things, I guess. So come onto your back, and I would like you to lay in like a constructive rest, or just simply with your knees bent. And I'll show you constructive rest. So when you come onto your back, bend your knees so that your feet are flat on the floor, kind of close to your body, but not near as close as when you come into bridge. Bring your feet to the long edges of your mat so your feet are away from each other, but still at a relative close distance to your body. And then let your knees knock in on each other. Okay, if that is not comfortable for you, then you can have your knees apart or any other position that's comfortable for you. And let your arms rest on your sides for a moment. Sure, if you want to. And again, you can close your eyes or let your gaze be soft. Without changing your breath, the rhythm, the length, or the depth, see if you can tune into your natural breathing, your physiological breathing. And as you tune into this breath, just notice, what does the inhale and the exhale feel like? Can you sense the depth of your breath? Maybe you can sense the texture, the warmth. Is it dry? See if you can sense the natural pause between the inhale and the exhale. Again, without trying to change it. Does the inhale feel shorter or longer than the exhale? Do you notice moments that you're breathing faster or slower? Do you feel any particular sensations in your body at any point of the breath? When you feel like you've got a good gauge on what your physiological breath is like, then bring your hands to your belly. I want you to try to keep your chest and your upper chest quiet as you find some deep belly breaths. When you inhale, let your belly press forward gently. And as you exhale, let it release back towards your spine. You can play with different volumes of air in and out of your lungs as you draw your diaphragm up and down. You can even see if you can visualize your diaphragm moving. You can alternate the rate of your breath, either go faster or slower. Maybe pause midway so you can feel different sensations. You can also move your hands around higher or lower on your belly. And then when you've got a good gauge on that, bring your arms back to your sides and just pause for a moment of your natural physiological breath. If it's difficult to do, that's okay. Just let it be whatever it is. And then when you feel like you've wiped the slate clean, you can bring your hands onto your ribs for costal breath. So in this breath, your belly stays quiet and you're working to see if you can press your ribs out to the sides or front to back. And you might move your hands around on your ribs to see what's what. And again, different volumes of air, different rates of the breath. You can play around with that. You can even see if you're able to sense your back ribs pressing into the floor, trying to keep the front ribs a little bit quiet. All the while, you're looking for sensations, whether physical sensations, mental, emotional. It's okay if you're not feeling a whole lot of anything, too. And again, when you've got a good gauge, let your hands come back down to your sides for a moment of your natural physiological breath. Kind of like wiping the slate clean. And this next hand placement is kind of interesting. So there's two places where you might feel costal breathing. The first place is I'll have you take your fingers to the very front of your shoulders and then walk your fingers in until you find the soft spot right where your collarbones meet your shoulders. And then you'll try to breathe into this upper space here. So it's just your collarbones moving and the top muscles of your chest moving. So this breath will probably be a little bit shorter, a little bit faster. We won't do this one too long because this one tends to bring a little bit of anxiety in. So if you're already feeling anxious today, don't do this one. And the second place that you can find is to bring your fingers to the hollows just above your collarbones. So right where your neck muscles meet at your collarbones. And with this one, you can do some quick sniffing. So breathe out. You might feel the muscles of your neck and your upper chest move in that way. When you feel like you've gotten a good gauge on that one, you can let your arms come down. Take a moment of your physiological breath here just to kind of come down. And then when you feel ready, you can come up to a seat. And you're welcome to share any thoughts or jot down any thoughts that you might have. Don't get lightheaded on me. We can probably just leave the lights off. Yeah, it's bright enough, and I'm gonna have them up and down. I figured I just. Thank you. I appreciate it. Anything to report?
The upper my collarbones, I felt like a huge wave of energy, and then when we returned back to like the physiological breath, it just like I released all of it. Like it just kind of like came rushing out as soon as I exhaled. It was really cool to feel. And then in my like when we were doing the costal breathing, I had my hands kind of like right where the sternum ends. And like I could feel like my diaphragm kind of like pulsing whenever I was breathing. It was cool. I never really paid attention to that, but that was really fascinating to feel.
Hey, cool. I like it. All right, Cassandra.
My natural breath is really fast. A one of the reasons why?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a doctor, so I couldn't tell you, but like, you know, I mean, is it a symptom of the anxiety, or is it partial cause of the anxiety? Like, there's a lot of moving pieces with that, but how did it feel to like purposefully do that breath? Like feel like have control over that breath?
It was kind of hard for me to reach up here.
Okay.
So I couldn't really tell the difference. Really.
Yeah.
But breathing slower, one of the first ones, I don't really remember that I found.
Mhm.
That one really made me feel like I could fall asleep,
Nice.
like relaxing.
Yeah. That's the point of that breath. So I'm glad that you were able to feel that. Especially like I've got like wicked anxiety too. So like I know like I'll be up here. Like I had a panic attack the other night and I was just like, okay, touch something, look at something, breathe. Right.
Yeah.
So like belly breath is like so effective for, you know, it's got effects on like your vagus nerve and things like that. So it really helps to draw the energy downward, right? Get you out of here, out of that fight or flight. So I'm glad you were able to feel that.
And then another thing. Nope, I lost it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
If it comes back, just holler. What else? What else were you feeling?
So for the constant breathing, it was easy to feel it on the sides and in the front, but the back, I was trying to feel like touching the ground with my back ribs. Wasn't happening.
Yeah.
It was a little frustrating, honestly.
Yeah. That's normal, right? We're not used to breathing in that way, right? We're not used to breathing in that 360-degree movement, and it could be that's probably one of the hardest ones to feel. So there is another way that you can try that breath is to get a strap around your ribs in that area. And like you don't want it tight, but you want to feel the resistance. You want to feel yourself push against the resistance. And it can be really effective doing that. Sometimes trying to feel out the back breath is easier in like a forward fold because you're already compressed on the front. So sometimes it's a little bit easier. Yeah. Don't beat yourself up.
I was fine about it.
Good. Yeah. Fair enough. Okay.
It was about REM sleep. I feel like when you're in a deep sleep, this is what came into my mind.
Sure.
Deep sleep, you're having that belly breath, but in REM, when you're more awake, I feel like, I don't know if it's REM, but when you're more awake in your sleep, I feel like it's that more faster breath. I don't know. That's just what I thought about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, potentially. You know, everybody's breathing rate is different, and deep sleep is like the slowest, most healing brain waves, right? And so when you're in that brainwave state, your breathing is like so slow. It's like, you know, you don't have a lot of respirations. Whereas, yeah, REM, depending on what's going on in the dream, things like that, it could be a little bit faster. And light sleep, generally probably a little bit more, I don't want to say rapid because you're still in those lower brainwave states, but yeah, it's interesting. I haven't done a lot of like study with the breath and sleep. But I do know that when you're in that deep sleep, the respiration count is much lower. Yeah. Which is, you know, it's interesting too, because that's ultimately, you know, in some of the ancient texts, it talks about, right? Like you only have so much breath in your body. You are only given a certain number of respirations, right? And so the idea is that if you can slow down your breath rate, you expand and lengthen your life, right? So, you know, if you are someone who, and it makes sense, right? From a physiological standpoint, it's just fascinating to me, like what the, you know, the ancient yogis and the ancient sages and all of this knew, that we are like, we need science to figure this out sometimes, you know, when they're like, yeah, we knew that a long time ago. But it's interesting because if you look at it from like you know, a physiological standpoint, if you live your life in a state of fight or flight and you have faster respirations, what's happening to your heart? Your heart rate is going up. You're putting more stress and strain on your heart. You're producing more free radicals and things like that. And, you know, your body is just out of whack and out of balance. So yes, you have the potential to shorten your life. Whereas if you are someone who is cool as a cucumber, you know, doing the deep breath techniques, you know, doesn't breathe a whole lot during the span of a minute, you know, that person probably doesn't have a lot of like the stress related diseases and things like that. You know, I mean, of course, there's always, you know, something, but from a general perspective, like, you know, that person is probably going to live a longer life. You know, except then you have like people like my dad who's, you know, treated his body like garbage and the man's going to live to 100. And it's, you know, I don't understand you, man, but
Like garbage keeps him calm.
he's just preserved. Let's say that. He's just preserved. He's pickled. Oh my Lord. So yeah, it's, you know, it's just interesting to play with these things. You know, if you want to, you can time your breaths, right? And see how many, like you do like a minute timer. How many natural breaths am I taking? Okay, counted that. Now in a minute, how few breaths can I possibly take, right? Be careful with this one because it could like kick up some anxiety. Like your body's like, yo, we were breathing just fine. Why are you fixing things? Why are you changing it? So just be careful with that. But yeah, it's just fascinating.
So have you ever really looked into those people that do like the ice baths to mess with their breathing a little bit, like make it deeper? But also
Yeah, you know, there's all kinds of stuff out there. And, you know, humans are fascinating. I don't know. Like, I think this is part of why I teach yoga because, like, humans are just fascinating. Like, the stuff we come up with and do, like, you know what? If it works for you and it floats your boat, go for it. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I know, like, Wim Hof, you know, has all of these techniques and things like that, like the cold dives and, you know, the meditation out in the Arctic or whatever. But, you know, some of the stuff is measurable, you know. There's monks that will go out into the Himalayas and, you know, meditate in the snow and they're melting the snow around them, right? So there's something to be said about tapping into your own potential. Sorry, good tickle.
scuba divers have to do it too. They have to be able to increase their lung capacity to withstand, what does that affect when you're coming back up? Thank you, yeah. Like just to be able to retain down there and breathe out of a little oxygen tube, it's crazy.
Yeah. Or even free divers, right? The people that have no, you know, stuff on them. They do this breath technique, almost like like a breath of fire. I'm good. It's just a tickle in my throat because I'm talking too much. You know, they do this breath technique so that when they do dive deep, they can hold their breath for like long periods of time. It's just, like I said, it's just fascinating. Okay, we'll talk about the posture for breathing here in a moment, but I do want to talk a little bit more about the parts of the breath, because each part of the breath, from a yogic perspective, has a specific action. Okay, so inhalation or puraka is the intake of prana. You're drawing in life force energy. It's the path of action, right? So I like to, this is the way my brain works, so take it for what it's worth. But like I visualize, like as you breathe in, your cells start buzzing because they're like, woohoo, we're getting good stuff now, right? It draws from the outside infinite energy into your inside finite energy. So you are, like I said, it's that drawing in of your life force energy. When you breathe in and you pause at that top of the inhale, you might notice that when your lungs are at capacity, you might find lightness, lift, joy, peace and easefulness. The air comes into the body, flowing down from the throat to the lower lungs, while the prana moves up as you're breathing in. So you breathe in, the air moves down, the prana comes up, okay? The exhalation, the rachaka, is the expiration of impure air. So it's taking all of the funk and junk that your body creates and pushes it out. And it is your finite energy merging with the infinite. What does that say? Oh. So you're keeping the good and the benefit of the inhalation, and you're letting go of anything you don't need, right? So think of the exhale as a release, as a letting go. So you're releasing impure air, you're releasing toxins, negative emotions, thoughts, ego, all of those things. The exhalation, though, quiets and calms the mind, and surrenders the body and the mind.
How much do you use the same technique throughout the meditation, hoping that eventually they'll calm their head, or different approaches? Like if someone's variation is how do you physically slow the breath?
So we'll talk about that when we get into some of the techniques. Yeah, it's, you know, working one-on-one with someone is, you kind of have to do trial and error, because you're going to find as you move through some of these pranayama techniques, you're going to find that some of them work for you sometimes and others work for you sometimes, right? And you may not connect with a specific breath or a meditation technique today, right? But maybe next week it works for you. You know, so you kind of have to just get a little bit creative and really kind of get to know the person before you can say, yes, this is the breath technique for you. So with the exhalation, it's more of a grounding, a calm. The exhale, the air comes up from the lower lungs up to the throat, while the prana moves downward and out to your extremities. Okay. Kumbhaka, the pause, whether it's between the inhale and exhale or exhale, inhale, this creates a space of complete withdrawal of the senses and silence of the mind, or pratyahara. Again, there should never be any tension when you perform kumbhaka. It shouldn't be held by force or will. It should feel like a natural part of your breath. So if you're like, I'm going to clamp down or I'm going to breathe in really soon, probably too much. Okay, you want to back out of it a little bit. As soon as you feel fear, agitation, increased heart rate, you need to release it, okay? Because you're going to build excess stress. And like I said, with practice, you can lengthen it. And it's, you know, remember that all of these practices, much like your asana practice, you're going to have some days that it feels great and you're happy to do it. And then it's going to be like, you do the same breath technique that you've done many, many times, and it kicks up anxiety, or it kicks up anger or fear, stuff like that. Okay. So just know that, like, you know, you're going to be different at different points. Okay. All right. Let's take a quick break, about 10 minutes, get up and stretch, use the bathroom, things like that. And then we'll come back and we'll dive into specific techniques, okay? And we'll do a little pranayama practice together. So come back at 10:16. Cool? All right, I'm gonna mute.
took us all day. And by the time we get back, it's summertime, right? Dark. Sun just going down. It was an experience.
Yeah.
But yeah, she would go to the mountain. There was a Buddha house, a monk house in the mountain. And then she would always tell you match, box match. Because lions and the tigers. So that's what she told me. I don't know, I'm just a child. She said, well, if lions or the tiger attack us, we just light the matches and toss them. And they will go away. That's what she said.
Was it not in an area of
No, it was
Korea,
in the
in the
mountain.
forest?
I mean, she
Right, but
did,
like,
yeah.
you wouldn't have started like a huge forest fire if you did that because it was so moist and humid, right?
In Korea, in the summer, very humid.
Right, so it wouldn't start like a huge.
No.
See, I'm like
Not like
Colorado
crispy,
mentality, I'm
dry,
like,
crispy here.
Yeah.
You know how crispy here.
It is crispy here. Okay, friends, let's, okay, so we are going to, this second hour, 40 minutes or so, we're going to practice specific techniques. Okay, so we've got Samavriti Pranayama, which is box breath. Okay, so it's Samavriti is same change, right? Sama is same, Vriti is fluctuations. So it's the same time for the inhale as the exhale. Equal uniform breath, equal movement. Now, with that one, we're going to do several rounds, and then I'll give you time to journal, kind of decompress and all that, so that when we move into the others, you're able to better experience the effects of those separately, rather than just like lumping them all together. Normally in a practice, you probably wouldn't do all of these at the same time. So yeah. It's important after you do a pranayama practice to practice shavasana, or deep relaxation. Okay, so don't skip shavasana. Okay, when you're doing this on your own, it's important. All right. So Samavriti, let's talk about real quick the seat for pranayama, which is going to be pretty much the same as meditation too. The idea is that we want to make sure, of course, that we're seated in a way that, number one, is comfortable, that you can maintain for an extended period of time. Number two, not only supports your spine, but what's going on in your spine from an energetic perspective that is important to have your spine straight.
The prana and all the chakra stuff goes up and down the spine.
Yeah, all the chakra stuff. Yes, the nadis. Your energy channels, right? So your nadis, making sure that Sushumna, Ida, and Pingala have a free flow. If you're sitting like this, you're basically kinking the hose, right? So the energy isn't flowing freely. And the point of pranayama is to balance these energy channels, right? So if you take nothing away from this in terms of pranayama, you're balancing your energy channels. You're balancing Ida and Pingala, trying to get some of that Shakti prana up into your Sushumna, right? Am I speaking a different language? Kind of am, right? Okay. So generally speaking, you want to sit up on something, right? Whether it's a bolster, a blanket, blocks, what have you. The idea is that you sit up on something so that your hips are higher than your knees. When your hips are lifted higher than your knees, it takes pressure off of your low back, it takes pressure off of your hips, your hamstrings, all that stuff. You can be in a more traditional seat. If you take the cross-legged version, what you want to do is bring your knees wider, because wider will give you more freedom in your hips as well. You can also, kind of like Chum is sitting, you can sit on your shins. That's totally fine. My legs will fall asleep by the end of this, so that's not going to happen. But what you can actually do is straddle the bolster with sitting on your knees like that, or sitting on your shins too. For people that have a lot of tightness in their hips and things like that, Sitting that way is a lot kinder. Yeah. So let's find your seat. So come up to a tall seat, or, you know, and figure out what works for you. And so once you've kind of got your hips situated where you need them to be, think about your torso. Your torso is actually strong and active here, right? You're working to lift your chest slightly, right? This is where I'm going to tell you, like, it's okay to let your front ribs lift a little bit, okay? I don't want you to sit like this, but like having your front ribs lift a bit is still a good thing. Your shoulders are relaxed down. You've got a slight mula bandha engagement, and I mean slight, like you're just helping to keep everything active and engaged. A slight tuck of your chin towards your chest. And so something that I've actually, like a cue that I've recently heard about this that really like kind of changed this for me. So like it's easy to think about tucking your chin, right? But you see what happens to the back of my neck when I tuck my chin? Think about the bony part right behind your ear moving back slightly. So like normally we've got this forward head posture, right? And our chin juts out. So if you think about this bony part right here, and you're just slightly moving it back so that it's aligned with your shoulders, and it creates that slight Jalandhara Bandha. Your head is relaxed. So just from the skin of your head is relaxed, your temples are relaxed, your lips touch but are relaxed. Tongue releases. Tip of the tongue is away from your teeth. You can close your eyes with light pressure or have a fixed and relaxed gaze with your eyes open. And keep your ears open to the sound of your breath. And this one is the most important. Relax your brain. Your brain is not the actor, it's the witness. Your brain is going to try to call you in many different directions. Your job is to keep it focused on your breath. Now, Samavriti is equal and uniform breath. We're starting with a very slight pause with the kumbhaka. So I'm going to ask you, when you breathe in to a count of 4. Pause. Breathe out for a count of 4. And pause. Continue that rhythm. No constriction in your throat for now. Just your breath moving in and out at that rate and pace. And if you start to feel comfortable with that rate and pace, you can start to find a full yogic breath. Imagine you're filling up a glass of water. So you breathe in, your belly softens, your ribs expand, your upper chest expands. And then as you exhale, let your upper chest release, your ribs release, your belly releases. Again, it's that slight pause with kumbhaka. If you're feeling comfortable with kumbhaka and you'd like to add a count in between, you are welcome to. But again, no stress, no strain, no agitation. This breath is said to create a sense of equanimity, sense of balance and grounding, and gives you a gentle shift in your parasympathetic nervous system. This breath is safe and accessible for most people to do. If you're feeling comfortable with the 4 count, You're welcome to increase your count. Notice your face, your jaw, your neck, and your shoulders. Keep that space relaxed. Just another moment here. Remember that if your mind starts to wander, draw it gently back to your breath, to what you're doing. And to end this practice, I'll have you take a deep breath. Draw your belly forward, ribs expand, upper chest. And exhale, let it all out. And do that again. This time, inhale, draw everything in, feel yourself get tight, hold the breath, and then release. And then let your eyes flutter open if they're closed. You can shift around in your seat if your legs started to fall asleep like mine. And tell me, jot down any notes or observations, but feel free to talk and tell me about it. I've passed my throat tickle on to Nicole. What do you think? Did anyone play with lengthening any of the kumbhaka or lengthening the count?
Yeah, I so in my personal practice before I started here, I've done that quite a bit where I was lengthening my breath to like 30 seconds and stuff like that. And so I feel comfortable lengthening it, but like it's nice to know that like, yeah, you're not supposed to feel the interference, so you just find that nice pace. But yeah, I was able to find a lengthened pace that's really
Nice. Awesome. 30 seconds. That's awesome.
yeah, I would only do it once in the practice. It would be like halfway through
Yeah.
the postures, and it would be like a short meditation. But yeah, it would be 30 seconds, and then just a 10-second inhale, and a 5-second hold, and then a 10-second exhale, and a 5-second hold.
Nice. Cool. What else? How are you feeling, Brittany?
Good. I noticed my mind was wandering a lot, so I had to like bring it back.
This one will do that to me too. For some reason, I don't know if it's just, it's not enough going on to hold my attention or what it is, but yeah, I get a little wandery with this one too.
Yeah, the second you said to like keep your mind from wandering was the second my mind started to wander.
Of course.
So I was like, oh, thank you. But I was able to focus better, and I tried messing with the length at first, but it didn't really feel good, so I just stuck with what you said. I felt a lot of tingling in this area, so that was interesting.
Cool.
I realized that I have an easier time with meditation if I'm like lying down or sitting in a chair than sitting on the floor. I also, for meditation, like, cause I don't do it much at home, cause like I baby it crazy like a dog, cat, it's crazy. So, but I do feel like when I do get the time to meditate, now have realized I do visualizations whenever I'm meditating. So I do feel like that's easier too. Like here I had not know where to take myself. So I just kind of felt like I was sitting here on the floor a little bit. So I think for me, visualizations work, even self, like not necessarily like someone saying it. But like, so yeah, that was an interesting realization.
Okay. So how old is your little one?
He's gonna be 1 in like a week and a half.
Yay!
Yeah,
There's a really cool breath you can teach him. So it's called flower breath, and it has worked wonders with my son from like about a year on, when he can understand like, you know, opening and closing his hands. So you breathe in, you breathe out, you breathe in, you breathe out. So it gives them something to do with their hands, and they're working their breath.
I love that. I took teaching yoga for youth with Lenora like 2 weeks ago. I feel so excited about like incorporating yoga into like my parenting style.
Yeah.
I think it would be great.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So the next breath we'll practice with is a breath that you all should hopefully know. It's Ujjayi breath, but it's not forceful, right? Have you been practicing like asana and you find that your Ujjayi breath, the harder you work, the harder your breath gets, right? Okay, so this is a little bit different. This is that slight constriction at the back of your throat, but it's not forceful at all, okay? And so this type of controlled breath, when we create that constriction, it actually does a couple things. That constriction allows you to draw in the breath slower, right? So you're not just like, wow, that's terrible. Anyway, I was like, that's not a good representation of what my breathing normally sounds like. But when you use that constriction, it allows the breath to move through a smaller passageway, okay? And so what this does is it does increase oxygen in your blood. It builds internal heat because of that friction. It creates and maintains energy, but it also at the same time triggers the parasympathetic nervous system. So it's getting you like that slow buildup of energy without it being like that like frenetic, like wild energy, okay? Yeah, and it slows the heart rate down, but we're gonna practice this in a seated position. And again, it's a very gentle Ujjayi breath, okay? So I should barely even hear you. It's more of a sensation that you have and you can hear yourself, but it's not that like, you know, okay, you know, make sure that your neighbor can hear you breathe in a yoga class. It's not like that, okay? All right, we're gonna do it. Sit up tall, find your seat. So again, thinking about the movement of the energy in your body. So just take a moment of natural breath for a moment. And then when you're ready, start to find that gentle constriction at the back of your throat. And with this, I want you to try and find an aspect of samavriti. So whatever your inhale is, counting to 3, 4, 5, 6, what have you, let the exhale be the same. Hearing that oceanic sound in your ears. You might feel it moving through the sinus cavities of your face. Remember, as you breathe in, prana moves up. And as you breathe out, prana moves down, out into your extremities. And be careful here that you're not clenching or tightening your jaw, your cheekbones, and even your inner ears are soft here. like to add a kumbhaka or a slight pause, you are welcome to. With the restriction of the breath and the lengthening of breath with this, you might find that you start to feel a little more stress or strain with the kumbhaka. So do be careful with it. Wow, these little pauses are fine. If you're working with longer kumbhaka, just know that if you are creating another human inside of your body, that it is contraindicated. Release kumbhaka, or release ujjayi. Ujjayi. I'll get the words out eventually. Come back to your natural breath for a moment. Take a big deep breath in. Exhale, let it out. One more. And then let your eyes flutter open. You can move your body, shift around in your seat. Jot down your observations, your thoughts, or tell me them. Yes.
I was giggling.
Yeah? Okay.
I was distracted by everyone else's like breath.
Uh-huh.
I was just like, every time you said, you was it called?
Kumbhaka.
Kumbhaka. And everyone like took a break, and then we all went back. So I was like, I couldn't think.
That's funny.
I couldn't focus on my breath as much.
Okay. That's all right.
Because I feel like I really was opposite. Like everybody's breath, I feel like helped me stay in because it really did sound like the ocean. And because visuals work for me, it kind of brought me there to that space. Not for the whole time, but you know, for times.
Yeah.
And so that's interesting. I mean, I had such a good experience as well.
Me being with people is like hard to like meditate with people because I feel like there's so much going on that I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Group meditations can be really intense because you're like, wait, is that mine? That's yours. That's not mine.
Me and my husband would do breath work sometimes. Like he's more experienced in the meditation realm of spirituality. But that's where I get giggly because I hear him and I can't focus on me.
That's funny.
When I was doing this one, I had sort of a visual of like tracing across, like breathing in across one edge and then stopping at the corner and then breathing out. And then so that I like.
Cool. Nice.
What's the name of this? The flow breath?
This breath, just ujjayi breath. Yeah. Yeah, this one I kind of like, I feel your bubbles get bigger and then contracted and then get bigger and contracted. It's just really cool. Yeah. It's, you know, like what you're sensing and what you're feeling, Cassandra, is not like out in left field or anything like that. It's totally normal because like I feel it like when, like, and I'm sure you've felt this too, like even when you're teaching a yoga class and like everybody's breath is synced up and they're all working hard together, it's like the walls are breathing and it's just this really cool experience. And then when you have an experience where like, you know, everybody is kind of like low energy and just kind of like blah, you know, this happens a lot in my Monday class because it's Monday, you know, and it's just like, you know, it's like I'm working extra hard just to get one person to breathe, you know, so it's like, it kind of like, you feed off of that really, you know, like when everybody is breathing together and everything is in rhythm and harmony and you're like, yeah, this is great. Like it affects you as the teacher, right? And then when everybody's like, oh, why am I even here? You're just like, all right, come on, let's go. We're gonna do this. It's our class, you know? So it's like, you know, you'll feel those things and it's really good to feel those, right? Because then you can feel the energy of your class and shift appropriately. Like maybe you do need to stop them and take some rounds of breath, right? So, you know, keep that, even if you giggle, it's fine.
I was going to comment on the first exercise that we did, but we moved into the second a little bit faster before I got to say this. But I noticed that as you guys got deeper into your meditations in the first segment that we did, everyone kind of started to smile just a little bit. Just a few people, just a relaxed smile, not like a forced smile or anything like that, but just like a relaxed joy that was inside of you that was being created. And then the second one that we just did, it was almost like a ripple effect of more people just sort of smiling a little bit more. And when you said you were laughing, I was like, well, maybe it was because everyone was laughing a little bit. But I think it really was an energy shift of you guys feeling that energy with the person sitting next to you. I mean, that's, you guys all smile. It's really sweet.
What else? So how do you feel like this Ujjayi breath is different than what you do in class?
I feel like I can feel more sensation from the last one, and then this gentle Ujjayi breath is not as I don't feel like as strongly as like if I like really loud, like making audible sound. So
Yeah.
just how
No, that makes sense because, right, in Ujjayi breath will slow your heart rate down. But when you use Ujjayi breath, when you're in an asana class where your heart rate is going up, right, you're constantly battling to find that balance, right? But when you're sitting, it's a lot more, you can feel the effects of the breath a lot more like instantly. So that's awesome. Cool. What else?
I kind of felt like the energy moving in my body. I felt like it was like spiraling throughout like my legs and like my trunk and everything. It was really cool to feel.
Nice. I love it. Are your animals like super attracted to you when you're doing this like breath work or anything?
I have them all outside. So no, at this moment, because I know they will be.
Because yeah, my one dog is like, she sees me like sit down to do meditation or chanting or breath work or anything. She's like, oh, mom's doing the weird stuff again. I'm out of here. She goes and hides in the closet. And the puppy is like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you breathing like that?
Why are you on the ground? You're on my level.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna lick your face.
I thought the combination between the breath hold and the Ujjayi breath was helpful because for me it gave me point of focus and reference. So if you go away from it, it feels a little more obvious because you're like, oh wait, I'm not doing all of that. So I felt like it was easier to focus. Yeah.
Cool. So, you know, and keep in mind too that like what we're doing right here isn't technically meditation, right? It's like a precursor to meditation, and it's a precursor to the first rung of the ladder with meditation. So know that like we're going to talk about it a little bit more when we get to meditation, but like using pranayama to calm your mind and get into that mental state to then move into the deeper aspects of meditation is super, super powerful and effective. But you absolutely can do one without the other. Okay, so you can do a pranayama practice and feel the effects immediately without going into meditation. Okay, so just know that too. And I say that because this next breath is traditionally not pranayama. It is traditionally a kriya. And I don't know how far you've gotten into some of your yoga history and traditions videos and things like that. But kriya is yogic action, is like the baseline understanding of it, right? I'm not going to go into it too much because Amber has a whole video on it, but it's like a cleansing practice, right? When we say like cleansing, it's like clearing out all the stuff. And I'm not going to do this one today. Actually, I can do it. But it's Kapalabhati. Kapalabhati, or fire breath or skull shining breath. And so Kapalabhati, like I said, this is the Kriya, not if you practice hot yoga, it's not the Kapalabhati from hot yoga, because Kapalabhati from hot yoga is all about releasing that hot energy, right? And you do it out of your mouth, okay? So it's that ch. That's not what we're doing here for the purposes of pranayama. It's not that it's wrong or anything like that. It's just a totally different thing, okay? Kapalabhati is, in Sanskrit, kapal means cranium or forehead, and bhati means light or perception and knowledge. So it's said that this brings lightness and clarity to the frontal region of your brain. It is a forceful exhalation with a rebound inhalation. So that means that you're not working to breathe in, you're working to breathe out, okay? Has anyone done this breath before? Yeah. It's not super easy to do if you're new to it. Actually, like the last round of teacher training, oh man, did I confuse them with it, because they were like, I should be pumping my stomach. I'm like, no, you're not, no. So I've got my tissue handy and I'm going to show you. So I'm actually going to tip this down so you can see the action that my stomach is doing. I'm trying to tip it without breaking it. That's good enough. Okay. So now where the confusion probably came in is I like to keep my hand here so that I can feel the contraction in my abdomen. If you start doing this breath and you feel the contraction move up into your ribs and your chest, stop. Okay, because you're shifting where the prana is, okay? And I'm not gonna get into all of the little details with it, but just know that we wanna keep it here, okay? So if it starts to move up, which is totally common to do because the breath pace is quick, just know that you wanna stop, reset, take a couple of breaths, and then come back at it. And so it's all through your nose, and how it works is you take a breath in, good to clear your nose out, that's for sure. So it's all like from right here, right? You're forcing the breath out, and after you force the breath out, you relax, and the inhale naturally rebounds in, okay? So we're gonna try it. I'm gonna count you through 3 rounds. Now, this one, again, if you are growing another human inside of you, you're not gonna do this. If you have really high or really low blood pressure, like that you take medication for, you're not going to do this. If you have had recent abdominal surgery that's not fully healed, you are not going to do this. Okay. If you have any other sort of issues with your abdomen, like hernias, things like that, you're not going to do this. Okay. All that said, if any of those things apply to you and you do this breath, you do it 1 time, probably not going to do anything. You do it 2 times, probably not going to do anything. But over the course of time, if you continue to practice the breath, it's counterintuitive and contraindicated for those concerns, okay? Okay. So find your tall seat. Sit up. You can close your eyes or have that soft gaze. And if you would like to, you can place your hand on your belly just for that frame of reference. You don't have to. It's totally up to you. And we'll do 3 rounds. First round will be kind of short just to kind of get the rhythm of it. And then the second round will be longer. Third round will be the longest. Okay. And to end the breath, when I say at the end and I say and breathe, you'll breathe in and then breathe out fully. We'll take a couple rounds of breath in between each round. Okay. All right. So get ready. Full round of breath to clear. Breathe in. Breathe out. Good. Inhale fully to prepare. And go. Good. Keep it controlled, nice and steady. It's not a hyperventilating breath. 3, 2, 1. Breathe in. Breathe out, relax. And 2 of your own natural breaths. Okay. Now, before we continue on, I saw a couple things. So number 1, it's not a really fast breath. You can do it at different speeds, but you want to push the air out. So it's this like rhythmic. Okay. You're not going to go like, if you do that breath, you're going to pass out. I don't want you to pass out. Okay. So if you feel lightheaded or anything like that, give yourself a moment. The other thing is that your shoulders shouldn't move. Okay. So if you're doing one of these, that's a pretty good indication that the breath has moved up into the chest and we want to pull it back down into the belly. Okay. So again, it's in. You know what, Rachel, can you do that?
You want me to
Sorry.
do it?
Yeah. Would you? Thank you.
How many are we gonna do the second set?
Well, so I just want you to do a demo real quick. So
Oh,
just do a
okay.
couple of them.
Sorry.
So that they can see. Yeah, because I don't feel like.
All right, so
So you notice how her shoulders aren't moving. It's just her abdomen pulling back, right? Thank you. So again, it's just that like pulsation at the abdomen. Okay, so it shouldn't be anything like, moving your chest and your shoulders and all of that. Okay, like I said, it's not a super easy breath to get into right off the bat if you've not done it before. So give yourself a pat on the back. Okay.
sometimes the passiveness too of leaving your chest kind of more passive up here, I think helps keep me calmer and more isolated and controlled down here. If I'm like kind of stressed up here, intense, like then that's when I start doing all the shoulder stuff. So like I find that the more I like tell myself, hey, relax up here and just focus on here, it kind of just takes care of that area and gets the focus where it needs to be. If that helps any of you.
We'll try second round, a little bit longer, go for about 20 seconds or so, okay? If in the middle of this you do start to feel lightheaded or dizzy, stop. Just stop and breathe normal for a moment and then come back into it when you feel ready, okay? Find your seat and take a round of breath to clear it. In through the nose, out through the nose. Inhale to prepare and go. Three, 2, 1, breathe in, breathe out. Pause for a moment of natural breathing. And then longest round will come up in just a moment. When you're ready, take a full round of breath in through the nose and out through the nose. Inhale to prepare and go. Keep the breath steady, rhythm at your pace. Good, and 3, 2, 1, breathe in, breathe out. Take a moment. If you're seeing stars, this one usually makes me feel all sorts of tingly. So, how do you feel? Wow. All right. The looks on some of your faces is just like, not sure what I just did there.
I didn't love that one as much.
Understood.
Especially when you mentioned hyperventilating, I felt like I kind of started to do that a little bit. And so it was easier to kind of stay in the mindset than the other one because it was like that constant trying to stay on beat. But then for some reason that just made me feel more anxious.
Okay. All right. Yeah. And like try it at different times of the day too, right? Sometimes first thing in the morning, this is like pot of coffee, right? Like it is like, hello, I'm awake now. Thank you. This one is really funny. My puppy will be like, all right, she wants to play. She wants to fight. Here we go. Also my son. So that's super fun. So yeah, like it's not uncommon to feel that like anxious, right, with it, because it is like energizing, right? You are lifting the breath up. And if you think about it, right, it's a rebound inhale. So like think of the prana, like I visualize the prana with this one is like pulsing up, right? And so it can be a little bit disorienting with it. So yeah. What else?
The first time we did it, I was going way too fast and didn't enjoy it. And I ended up doing 2 rounds in the first round because I just didn't even know what's happening. But like halfway through the second one, I really was able to get into it more. And the last time I was able to, and what you had said about the shoulders really helped.
Oh, good.
Yeah, that was great. So, but towards the end, I actually liked it once I was able to like figure out how to control the beat of the breath kind of, and like do it slower than like before.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's good.
Cool. Nice. What else?
My nose was super stuffy, so it was really difficult.
Yeah.
Like I normally like it because it is like that hot coffee.
Yeah.
But I was like, man, I just can't breathe through my nose right now. This is frustrating.
Yeah. There's we were talking about like free diving. This is part of what like free divers will do like a variation on this. So like, yeah, it's like talk about like seeing the cells like vibrating like crazy. Like this is the one. This is the one for sure. Yeah, it's super frustrating. Although it's effective when your nose is stuffy, like because it'll clear that out.
Better than it was an hour ago.
Yeah, it'll clear it out for sure. What else? Anything? Any other observations?
So I again in my personal practice, I would do a cobra variation, and it'd be like 3 minutes of the breathing, and it was always kind of like this weird, like not suffering or pain or like disease with my body or anything, but like to find that comfort that you talked about where you're relaxing everything but this. And so like it was always something that I would be able to do where I'd be like, this is like a physical manifestation of emotional suffering. Nothing bad is happening to me. Everything is okay. It's a different style of breathing. If I can do this, I can do anything. Because it's just like you said, it's more of a physical manifestation of what it feels like to be super anxious, where your breath is too fast. It is out of control. But if you can find that calmness inside of it, you're like, oh, okay, cool. Like the people who climb Everest, they probably have a version of that where they're like, I can take this next step because of the next breath. Yes. And so like, I've always felt really strongly about this breath.
I love that. And I didn't say this because I don't ever want to tell someone to do this because it could really backfire. But like if I'm having a panic attack, a lot of times I'll do this breath because it's like you said, it's like I'm now in control of it, right? And it's, it's that immediate like switch of perspective that like this is not happening to me. I am controlling it. And like, so I love that you've been able to find that too. Yeah.
You're meeting yourself where you're at.
Oh yeah.
So to speak.
Yeah. Like I said, it can, like if you're having a panic attack, like unless you're practiced in this breath, don't do it because it could just make it worse. But yeah, I've definitely used it and I was like, yeah, all right. You want to breathe like this, body? I'm going to make you breathe like this. Here we go. So yeah, it's, like I said, it became part pranayama practice because it is a kriya that works with your breath, but it is traditionally a kriya, a cleansing practice. So I'm glad that you were able to find some of that with it. So yeah, this one builds heat. This is a quick heat builder, a quick energy builder. So like, like my class on Monday after, 5:45, everybody's getting off of work. They're all like, Monday, I want more weekend. You're like, guess what? Breath of fire, friends. Here we go. Get some energy into you, right? So this is a really good breath to do that. This is a really good breath to prep for core too, right? So like, you might have seen in classes, doing breath of fire to prime the core to do certain core work, things like that. So, or on its own, it's a great core work. Okay, I want to get into this last one and have time for you for it before we get into the meditation portion. So, Nadi Shodhana, or alternate nostril breath. This breath is like, when in doubt, like your root chakra is off, alternate nostril breath. Your second chakra is off, alternate nostril breath. Like this is the cure-all for things, right? Because this balances Ida and Pingala, right? The specific purpose for this breath is to balance those two channels. So it's traditionally done with a mudra, right hand only, okay? So the right hand is for sacred acts, clean acts, left hand, not so much, okay? Talk to you later about it. So you can do it one of two ways. You can take the first two fingers and fold them down to like the meat of your thumb, and then you use your thumb and your pinky to close off nostrils alternating. Or the other option is to take the fingers and place them on your third eye. So it's just different ways to do it, depending on like your arm is going to get tired, right? Because you want to make sure that your elbow is away from the side of your body, simply so that you keep your spine straight and upright, right? Because if you get tired and you start to, yeah, exactly, Annalise, you start to do one of these, right? And that's no good for your nadis, okay? So the idea here is it's a pattern, okay? And we always start on the left side. So I'm going to show you first so that you know. So you start off, and it's a gentle closing of the nostril. You don't want to like jam your septum across your face or anything like that. So you gently close your right nostril, breathe in through your left. At the top of your inhale, you close the left nostril, open the right, exhale through the right. Inhale through the right. Close the nostril, exhale left. And that's one complete round, okay? There's different variations on how to do it and things like that. This one is very, very traditionally done with kumbhaka, though for our purposes, we're not gonna add that kumbhaka. It's just gonna be that slight pause when you close off both nostrils before opening the other side, okay? Traditionally, it would be done with the same count of inhale or exhale, okay? But we're not gonna do that because I'm gonna have you breathe in nice and slow with a longer count, okay? So sit up tall, set yourself up. So choose which hand gesture, hand placement you're going to use. So first two fingers gently rest on the meat, and then you use your thumb and your pinky. Okay, so we're not using the first finger. First finger is associated with ego. We don't want to use that one. So thumb and pinky. Okay, so start off, gently close your right nostril. Breathe in through the left. Pause. Open your right. Breathe out through your right. And then breathe in through your right. Close the right. Breathe out through the left. And in through the left. That was one round. Pause at the top. Exhale right. Inhale right. Pause. Exhale left. And continue like that at your pace. See if you can get the inhales and the exhales to be the same length with just that little pause. You might notice that one nostril is clogged up a bit more than the other. That's okay. You should be relaxed and calm with this. The next time you exhale through the left nostril, release your hand. And take a few breaths just at your natural rhythm. What do you feel? What sensations?
So normally if I don't have a study nose and then I will like really feel like the flow channeling in my brain. But like today just
Yeah.
So but normally it feels very good like to me personally.
Cool. Yep. Well, you know, and it's interesting too, right? With the right side and the left side, Ida and Pingala, you're going to have more prana in one or the other depending on the time of day. It is the Pingala time of day right now. So like we're entering into Pingala, so it's not surprising if many of you didn't. A lot of you feel that your right nostril was a little bit more open. Yeah. So if you do this at night, I bet your left nostril will be a little bit more open. This is a measurable thing. This is not just like a hokey woo thing. It's something that like even doctors know and understand. So just notice, you know, at times you do this. This breath can be, because it balances Ida and Pingala, it can be both energizing and calming and soothing, depending on where your energy is. So if you are right now, if you're Pingala dominant, you probably feel a little bit more relaxed. If you were more Ida dominant and more like, you know, in your head and things like that, you probably feel a little bit more energized. So this is one of those breaths that can go either way, just depending on how you use it. In the recordings, I break it down into one side only so that you can feel the effects of one side versus the other side. So just know that that's there for you. Let's do, so that's the last breath before we move into meditation. Let's do another 10-minute break. Feel free if you need to eat, things like that. And we'll come back at 11:10 and talk all things meditation.
11:20.
I know. I just read what was on my computer too. Thank you.
You're like, wait.
I know. I just, yeah, it is 11:10, 11:20. Thank you.
So sweaty.
Did it really?
Yes, like I had to stop for a minute.
Start. Yes, it is. All right. All right. So, meditation. Like I said, with meditation, we're going to talk about, I'm going to kind of glance over some of the other techniques when it comes to meditation, but we're going to really focus on meditation from the yogic perspective, particularly with the 8 limbs. Okay. And this will set you up for success when you move into some of the recorded practices. Okay. Now, again, with the recorded practices, pranayama and meditation, know that just like in here, like some of your experiences with some of the pranayama and things like that, like maybe you connected with it, maybe you didn't. When you do some of the recorded practices, like you might not connect with one of the practices, and that's okay. But what I'm going to ask you to do is to give it another try. Don't just be like, oh, I don't like this meditation, it doesn't work for me, and never do it again. Okay. Try it at a different time of day. Try it when you're in a different mindset, things like that. And if after like you've tried it twice or 3 times, you're like, nope, still not working, cool, that's valid. Okay. But also know that the technique is still there for you to use at any time. And like maybe at a different point in your life, it might work for you. Okay. So just know that. But I would like for you to at least try each of these for like a week before you move on to the next one. So know that you're probably going to like, you know, be done with this later than the teach out a little bit. So again, with learning objectives with meditation, I'm going to introduce you to yoga meditation, its benefits and its effects on the physical and energetic body. You'll start to understand through discussion and practical applications the concepts of pratyahara, which is withdrawal of the senses, dharana, dhyana, and the understanding of the concept of samadhi. Okay, this is one of those things where like I can't tell you all about samadhi. I can tell you the concept of it and the idea behind it, but it's more of an experiential thing. Hopefully, you'll start to develop a personal practice of meditation, maybe incorporating pranayama. And then you'll understand, we'll talk about how to incorporate short meditations into the standard vinyasa class that you have to support your theme, right? So there's different ways that you can incorporate some of these techniques, not necessarily a sit down and meditate, okay? So let's have a little open discussion about what is meditation. What comes to mind when you think of the act of meditation?
Detaching from your thoughts.
Detaching from your thoughts. Okay. What else?
Creating mental space.
I like that. Creating mental space.
A space to disconnect from everything outside and around and kind of inward.
Nice. So like your environment and connecting inside, inward. Cool. Thank you. What else?
Classic. Just sitting there with the legs crossed, like just like for hours.
Okay.
No food.
No food.
No food. No water. Just
Suffer.
Detox.
I love it. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's all of that. And one of the best ways that I've ever heard meditation described to me is it is the act of making friends with your mind and finding a deeper sense of who you are beneath it all, right? So that kind of encompasses everything that we were talking about. But really it's depending on the teaching, depending on the setting, depending on who's in front of you, things like that. It can go any number of different ways. It can be, for mental health. It can be for physical health. It can be a spiritual practice. In yoga, it is a spiritual practice. It is elevating your spiritual awareness so that you can, die a good death, right? Like, I hate to get morbid with it, but really that's what we're doing, right? Nobody gets out of this alive. So we are setting ourselves up to have a good death. And I mean, you get a lot of benefits physiologically, mentally, and emotionally along with it. One of the things that happens is, like we mentioned earlier, like pranayama gives you instant gratification, right? You feel the sensations instantly. So it's easier to say, okay, I'm going to sit down and do some pranayama because you're going to get what you need out of it. Whereas meditation, a lot of the times, is cumulative. And it is a practice, right? It's just like your asana practice. Although many times students will fall out of this meditation practice because they're not seeing the benefits right up front, right? Whereas like an asana class, you might hit a plateau, right? But then, okay, maybe it's just time to change up my asana practice. You can do the same thing with meditation, right? If you hit a plateau, but a lot of times students will be like, nah, it's not working for me. I'm just going to go back to asana, which is fine, totally fine. But, there's a lot of benefit to meditation. Mindfulness is like this big umbrella that covers a lot of different kinds of practice. Okay, so mindfulness is, being aware in the present moment. You're focused on what it is that you're doing You're not thinking about other things. You're not running through the grocery list, what have you, that kind of thing. Actually, I have a really little tidbit in here. A 2016 study compared 4 different types of meditation and found that they each have their own unique benefits. So like, I think it's really cool that we're starting to really study these things now. During body scan, participants saw the biggest increases in how aware they were of their bodies, which is not surprising, right? You're doing a body scan meditation, you're focused on your body. So that's not a surprising thing. But they also had the sharpest decline in the number of thoughts that they were having, particularly negative thoughts and anything related to the past and the future. So like, we're starting to really understand and like put these things into categories, right? Loving kindness meditation led to the greatest boost in their feelings of warmth and positive thoughts about others, because that's what it's designed to do. Like sometimes I like read some of these studies and I'm like, well, yeah, done. Just practice it and you'll feel it. Observing thought meditation, right? So like, I think this is what we were talking about, like where you watch your thoughts come and go without attaching to them, seemed to increase participants' awareness of their thoughts the most. But it does have an advantage in reducing judgmental attitude towards others. So, you know, from like a societal standpoint, if you will, like you meditate to have better interactions, not just with yourself, but with others around you, right? It takes you out of that reaction category and puts you into response. So I forget who said that, you know, creating mental space, right? But like it creates that cushion between the stimulus and the response, right? So you have that moment to, I was actually reading a story to my son the other night and I was like, wow, that's really cool. It was a story, I don't remember the exact like title or anything, but it was a mother and a son, and the son was like reacting to the mother telling him no about something. And he like blew up at her and stormed out. And she told him, the next time you feel that, wiggle your toes 3 times before you say anything, right? And so it was that same idea of like creating the space between the thing that is like being thrown at you and the thing that you are about to react, right? So I just think it's really fascinating. So along with that, why else would you meditate? So what other benefits do you get out of meditation? A lot of them are similar to pranayama, so it's okay to repeat things.
Self-awareness.
Self-awareness.
It can help focus.
Help focus.
And also just giving yourself the time for you.
Yeah.
Self-care.
Self-care for sure. But like essential self-care, right? Like we're not talking like taking a bubble bath. Right? Like it is essential like mental health care for sure. Oh, anything else? Better sleep.
I think it gives you kind of calmness.
Calmness.
And the blood pressure is kind of down.
Yes, absolutely.
All the excitement.
Yeah.
Daily. So it's I think important to me to learn to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. There's been studies shown that it can also change your neural connections in your brain. Like you're actually creating new neural connections in your brain, which is just like absolutely amazing. You increase your gray matter too. Like you can increase the actual physicality of your gray matter. You know, along with all the other things, right? Like all the other, like blood pressure goes down, heart rate goes down, your respiration goes down. So your stress response goes down, right? Your nervous system kicks into parasympathetic nervous system. So you see things like better sleep, better cognition, better memory, better perception, all of that. You know, and again, these things have been studied. So, you know, and it's also, I also was reading a study too about how, you know, it's stroke victims that have had meditation along with their physical therapy and things like that have faster recovery times and all of that. Again, because of that neural connections. So it's just really, really, really interesting. What about when? Like, when do you meditate? Whenever. Talk more about that.
Because meditation is something you do on the inside, like you don't have to be anywhere special. You don't have to have anything, like you don't need props. You could do it in your car, you could do it here, you could do it at home or in line at the grocery store. You could just do it anywhere.
Okay.
It's a mental space, not a physical space.
True. The only little side note that I'll add to that though is when it is used as a spiritual practice, you do want it to be in a specific place, right? When you're using it for, all the other benefits that we talked about, yes, absolutely. Like, my teacher actually was like, he's like, I take my meditation stool and I meditate in a busy airport, and like that is because you're able to move yourself out of being drawn by the distractions. Okay.
Meditation challenge.
What's that?
But it sounds like a meditation challenge.
It is, but it's also like finding the calm in the storm, right? Like being the center of the storm versus being wrapped up in the, the winds and what have you. But so yes, in that aspect, absolutely, you can meditate anywhere, but not everything is meditation. There is a difference between flow state and meditation. Okay, flow state is did something just happen?
Oh, is that what happened? I like heard something fall over here and I was like,
Oh, just
maybe water though.
just going through the life cycle. It's fine. It's like it was in we were in last weekend, Extra Postures, and like the posters just kept falling off the wall behind me. I was like, okay, someone's trying to send me a message. So like there's a difference between flow state and meditation. Okay, flow state is an active state where you are in a deeper level of concentration, but you are actively fully concentrated on something else, right? So like, I'll always use the example of like mountain biking or like kayaking, things like that, where you are so fully immersed in what it is that you are doing that there isn't really a separation between you and the act that you're doing. Yet that is not meditation, right? It is a great precursor to meditation, but it's not necessarily meditation because like I'll have, students tell me like, oh, well, I meditate while I'm prepping food for my family and things like that. And while, like I said, that is a great precursor to meditation. When we look at meditation from a traditional aspect, that's not meditation. What's that?
Is it pranayama?
No, pranayama is strictly like working with the breath. Yeah, pranayama is working with the breath. Flow state is like, for example, I saw this really cool old video of a musician, and he's sitting at the piano and he's playing this really intricate piece of music and like, developing this piece of music. And he is so fully immersed in it that at some point he stands up from the piano and he goes over to the window, and you can tell like he is still fully in that space, and then comes back to the piano after just a few moments and begins playing the exact same right from the point that he left off. And there was like no disruption in his thought process or anything like that. He was completely immersed in what he was doing. And that is, sometimes people will say, well, that's a meditation, but it's not, because it's a more active state. Meditation is the action itself. Okay. So when you are sitting down to meditate in a spiritual practice, you are sitting down to meditate, right? And you are actively working with yourself, not with anything else. And like, I'm not crapping all over like all those things that like bring you that clarity, right? By all means, I'm not doing that, but just know the difference between the two. Okay. Yes.
You saying the story about the musician, I
reminded me of Soul, the Disney Pixar movie.
Oh yeah.
That's what it reminded me of.
Yeah.
When you're just in the thought, you're doing your thing.
Yeah.
Nothing good stuff.
Yeah. You know, my husband for a long time was a whitewater kayaker. And, you know, he would always describe like, oh, kayaking is my meditation. No, because you have to be aware of what's going around you, sir, or it's going to be a bad ending. Like that's not meditation, right? Like you're in that flow state. You are one with the water. You are so hyper focused on, you know, what is happening in front of you that you don't have to think about the next move or the next paddle stroke, but you're still fully active and immersed in that. Okay. So that's just the delineation. I don't want to spend a ton of time on it, but just so that you know, like, you know, sometimes you'll have students come and be like, oh yeah, hiking is my meditation. Not exactly. It's a great place to be, but it's not really meditation. It's a great precursor to meditation. It gets you in the right frame of mind to meditate. So, you know, as you kind of dive into these things, you'll see lots of different types of meditation. So we've talked about yoga meditation. Buddhist meditation is another really popular one. And it's like, it's really accessible to people that have no meditation experience. Yoga meditation requires a little to a lot more practice with it, right? Because Buddhist meditation, you can sit down and do the simple breath techniques. And I say simple, but I just mean like simple in technique. I don't mean simple in concept, right? There's a lot of really deep stuff going on there. You know, there's transcendental meditation, mindfulness, progressive relaxation, and on and on and on and on. You know, like we're always developing these new types of meditation and things like that. So, you know, just know that they all stem from similar roots, you know, and the goal is generally the same with them, is to find that quiet space, right? My teacher actually described it to me, and I kind of alluded to this, is thinking of your consciousness as a body of water, and your thoughts and your life experiences and sensations cause ripples on the surface of the water. So if you were to just walk over to the surface of the water at any point in your life and look down, your reflection is going to be very muddled, right? It's going to have lots of ripples and waves and foam and whatnot. Through the process of meditation, we calm the fluctuations of the mind field, right? Yoga's Chitti Vritta Nirodha. Have you heard this? Mm-hmm. Okay. So you're calming the fluctuations of the mind field so that when you are in that meditative state and you have calmed the ripples of the water, you're able to look in the water and see clearly your reflection. And you're looking at your big S self, your highest self, right? Not Kristen, the flesh, right? Mom, yoga teacher, wife, what have you, right? You see the infinite you, the part of you that cannot be killed, cut, burned, maimed, what have you. Okay, you're seeing the deep part of yourself. And then a thought comes and puts more ripples on. And when I say we're seeing this clear vision of ourselves, it's like that, right? You might have the curtain pulled back for like a split second, and then you have a thought, and you have to say, go away, right? The other thing that meditation is not, and I love that you did this, Laura, that you're like, right? The other thing that meditation is not is the absence of thoughts, right? You're human. You have these underlying processes happening in your body that create electrical impulses, right? Your brain has to tell your heart to beat, which that electrical impulse is probably going to trigger some thought or something along the way. So it's not that, you know, even the monks in the Himalayas that are sitting and meditating for weeks on end, they're having thoughts. They're just back here, right? And they're not affecting what's going on with what they're doing, okay? So it's not that I'm asking you to get rid of your thoughts. It's that I'm asking you to not follow them down the rabbit hole, okay? Which is really easy to do, right? When you're sitting in meditation, maybe you sit down in the first minute, you're like, okay, I'm gonna do this. I got my plan. I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna sit here and be quiet. And then you start. I'm hungry. Okay. I'm hungry. Okay. I'm hungry. All right. Well, after this, I'm gonna have lunch. And I think I want to have this for lunch, but if I want to have this for lunch, then I need to go to the grocery store. And if I'm at the grocery store, I might as well go and and before you know it, you're like spiraling down the rabbit hole and you're no longer meditating. Okay. What I want you to get to a point is I'm hungry. Okay. Thought. I'm hungry. Thought. Okay. And just keep moving yourself back to the breath and keep moving yourself back to your point of focus. Even if you do that 40 times in a minute, you're doing great. Okay, that is working to strengthen your mindfulness. It is working to strengthen the muscle of meditation. Think of this as working your body just like you do in asana. Okay, the first time you come to yoga, you probably can't touch your toes. The second time you come to yoga, you probably can't touch your toes. But did you quit? No, you're still here, right? So think of that the same way that you think of meditation. Okay. Questions, thoughts? Yes.
A few minutes ago, you said that meditation and yoga is a spiritual practice. Because it's a spiritual practice, you should have like an intentional space for it, kind of. Is that when you say that, do you mean like you should have the same space every time for your spiritual meditation practice? Or it should just be like a conducive space?
Conducive space. Yeah. I mean, it's nice to have a dedicated space. It's nice to have, whatever things with you that you like to have with you, be it photos of loved ones and things like that, but it's not necessary. What's more important is to have a dedicated time, right? That you do this every day. And, I mentioned before, like, when do you meditate? So I'll tell you another story that, kind of makes this click. It made it click for me anyway. So my teacher was talking about, when do you meditate? And some people would say, oh, I meditate every day. Some people will say, oh, I meditate whenever I'm stressed out. How often are you stressed out? Like once a month. I have this work meeting that I get really stressed out, so I meditate for it. Well, if you meditate regularly, you probably won't get so stressed out before that meeting and need to like stop, drop, and meditate. Okay. Let's say I give you two items. I give you a bucket full of water and I give you a rock. And I say, your job is to use this bucket of water to wear away at this rock. So are you going to have way more success with wearing away at the rock if you, every once in a while, you're like, oh, right, the rock. You run over and you grab a cup of water and you splash the water on the rock? Or are you going to have more success if you have a steady drip in the same spot on the rock consistently to wear away at the rock? Okay, so that's like meditation, right? It may seem daunting to say, okay, I'm going to meditate every day for 10 minutes. When you add it into your schedule, think of like, brushing your teeth and washing your face in the morning, right? You can do this. But what you're doing is really strengthening your resilience, right? So that when life happens and it knocks you off center, it maybe doesn't knock you so far off center, and it's way easier to get back to center when those things happen versus like, oh, my life is in upheaval, I'm going to meditate. I'm going to meditate for like an hour and make everything better, right? When you don't have an established practice, that's going to be a lot harder to do. Okay, so really, I'm going to challenge you all. I'm going to challenge you all from now until the end of teacher training to set yourself up with a daily meditation practice. Excuse me, I'm going to get hiccups now. Pick a time. I like to do it morning and evening. And it's actually quite easy for me to do. Like, so I'll tell you like my little secret. I have my alarm set for like early in the morning. And what I do is I just like slide out of bed and plop next to my bed and do my meditation and pranayama practice right there on the floor before I, start my day and things like that. And then when I'm putting my son to bed at night, we do a chant together, and then I sit on the floor next to his bed and do a meditation while he's fussing around and flopping around in his bed trying to aggravate me. Because he doesn't want to go to sleep because it's summertime. But like, you know, is it ideal and perfect? No, like, but I'm also, you know, a person living in the modern Western world, and I need to make do with what I've got, and that's what I've got. So, you know, don't beat yourself up if you don't have like the perfect meditation space, right? Like, do what works for you. Okay. Involve your loved ones with you if you can. Okay. Questions about any of that before we move on to the classical practices? Yes.
I know that I know book called but a good trait is to have it stacked. So kind of like how you said you were wake up and you do it. Some people could do it like after they brush their teeth, right after they compare that. So it's just stacking the habit that you already have on top of it.
Yep. Sometimes just setting your alarm 5 minutes early. I'm not a morning person and I can do it begrudgingly most mornings, but but the thing is I know that it's going to better me, right? I know it's going to make me a better person, a better human, a better mom, a better wife, a better teacher, right? So I know that I'm setting myself up for success and I'm doing it for the people that I love, right? So yeah, you know, just tacking it on to whatever you do, whether it's like waiting for your coffee to brew in the morning and you go and sit in a quiet spot for a moment, right? There's, you know, we live in a society where it's like bigger, faster, better, more, right? Do, or you're falling behind. You know, so take a look at what you're doing in your life. You're like, oh, I have no time. Are you doing this? Right? Are you doing this for 40 minutes? Right? While you're waiting for something to happen? Like, just pay attention to those things, right? And that's like, it's a huge, huge habit to break. I'm not knocking it. Like, it is super addicting and all of that good stuff. So know that like, it's hard, but I know you can all do it. You're doing this, so you can do it. All right. Classical practices. So when I say classical practices, we're talking about practices that fall in line with the 8 limbs, starting with pratyahara. Pratyahara is withdrawal of the senses. I like the description of it more so of drawing the senses inward and opening to the full experience of your senses. Because if I tell you, okay, we're going to practice pratyahara today, and you're going to turn off all your senses, that's not going to work for any of us. We can't do that, right? But the idea with it is to hone in on each of your senses so that way you can fully experience them, satisfy your mind so that then you can settle. So your mind is like, you know, you're like, all right, mind, here we go. We're going to sit down and meditate. You're going to hear everything that you can hear. You're going to feel on your skin everything that you can feel. And I'm going to blast you with it, so to speak, so that then you're satisfied. Now I can calm you and I can move into deeper practices. Does that make sense? Okay. Generally, you can do this with like a body scan to open your awareness, or just simple open monitoring. Body scan is going to be very sequential, so you'll focus on your toes, your feet, your ankles, and so on, moving up your body. Okay. And when you body scan for this, it's really just opening yourself up to experience all the sensations. Okay. Open monitoring is just that. It's just being open to all the sensory input without labeling or attaching. You're simply witnessing. So, you know, you can have your eyes closed and notice the shift of the light and the shade. Your ears are open, so you're hearing all the sounds around you, you know, all of the different senses. Okay. That is probably one of the more accessible meditation techniques for a lot of people because we all have bodies, right? And we can all experience the senses in different ways. So it allows you to really hone in on that and get into your body. From there, the next step is dharana. Do you all know what dharana is? Concentration. Okay. Concentration or single pointed focus, right? And so you are focusing on one thing in particular. So you've gotten your mind all calm and steady, and now you have a tool to help you focus. The traditional focus is mantra. Okay. Mantra, you can simply recite a mantra, or you can use a japa mala. You can do a japa mala meditation. Do you have a mala with you?
No, that was me.
Okay. Sorry. Does anybody have a mala? Okay. So a mala is a string of beads, 108 beads, with a guru bead. Not with you. Okay. Well, I asked because I wanted to show you. I totally forgot mine. Anyway, so a japa mala meditation is you use the mala to count your mantras. Okay. It's very simple to use. You drape the mala on your right hand, not over your right finger, your first finger, your right finger. You don't use your first finger. You use your thumb to pull the beads towards you one at a time as you recite your mantra. When you get to the large bead, the guru bead, you don't pass it over your finger. You just simply count the other direction. So you push the beads away from you with your thumb as you go. If you're doing more than 108 recitations, okay? If you're sticking with 108, then you simply pull it towards you. You start with the guru bead facing you and you pull it towards you. Okay? Makes sense? Yeah. The one thing I do want to say with malas is that they're a spiritual tool, right? And we want to make sure that we are appreciating and not appropriating the culture, right? And so traditionally, mala is a very important spiritual tool. And it's not necessarily to be displayed and worn as jewelry and things like that, because they're, you know, you might find some that are really intricate and really beautiful and made with different gemstones and things like that. And the gemstones have different vibratory qualities and bring about different qualities and things like that. Generally speaking, it's okay to wear them, and it's not offensive to wear them. But typically you want to keep them closer to your heart, right? So maybe tuck it into your shirt and things like that. It's not necessarily something to be displayed. You don't ever want to place it on the floor. You treat it with care. You know, if you wear it to a yoga practice, traditionally you're not going to wear it during your asana practice because it could get tangled up and destroyed. So you set it nicely on a cushion or a towel or a blanket or something like that. Don't put them on your feet. That's incredibly disrespectful. We don't put them on the feet. Feet are seen as, especially the soles of your feet, seen as dirty. So you don't put them on the soles of your feet, things like that. So, you know, just if you're going to use malas, just be respectful with them. That's all I ask. Cool. Appreciate, not appropriate. The other tool, another traditional tool is trataka. And trataka is gazing at a sacred object or a sacred symbol or fire. Fire is really powerful, so do be careful with it. But the idea is that you take your sacred symbol. So like your yantras from the chakras can be one of those. There's also another one called the Shri yantra, which is like encapsulating all of the mysteries of the universe, right? The idea is that you set that object at a comfortable distance for your eyes. And there's a couple different ways to do this. One of the most accessible ways to do it is you sit and meditate. You've gotten your mind into a calm state with whatever various techniques that you want to use. And you then open your eyes and you gaze at the object without blinking, without averting your eyes, things like that, for 30 to 60 seconds. And then you close your eyes. When you close your eyes, you'll see the image of whatever the object is imprinted on the backs of your eyelids. And you'll try to hold that gaze for 30 to 60 seconds. It's going to jump all over the place. Your job is to try and hold it steady. And you're essentially contemplating upon it, right? Contemplating upon the meanings, about how the qualities of the object are, alive in you and all of that. And then you rinse it and repeat it as many times as you want to. Typically ending the meditation with that, because it can be straining on your eyes, typically ending it with just placing the heels of your hands in your eyes with a gentle pressure just to relax the eye muscles so you don't strain your eyes. You can do this with a candle flame. Again, fire is really powerful. It has a really transformative quality to it. So I generally tell students that are new to this type of meditation, don't start with that, right? What's that?
Why? What is that?
It can just bring up a lot of stuff. It can bring up a lot of stuff that maybe you're not ready for, or, powerful emotions that maybe you weren't expecting and things like that. It's not like it's going to hurt you. It's not going to do anything bad or anything like that. But, fire is, like I said, it's this transformative quality. And I've had really intense meditations using this, that without the proper skill and knowledge around it, I wouldn't know what to do with what came up. Does that make sense? Like, it's not like, I'm not telling you like, don't do it. You're going to open, a hole to the upside down or something like that. Just finished that show. I'm so sad. Like, just be careful with these things. The other tool, the other point of focus can be pranayama. So you can incorporate pranayama as your tool. Any other questions about dharana practices? Those are probably the most common ones that you'll see people practicing, okay? Especially after an asana practice. You've gotten your body satisfied with movement. You've done some breath work. You've connected your mind and body. And then, after a yoga class, you might see someone sitting doing some alternate nostril breath or working with a mala, things like that. So like I said, these are probably kind of the most common ones that you'll see. Moving into the next one is dhyana. But like I said, if you have questions or comments before we move there, because this one's going to be a little bit fun to talk about. Well, we're getting into more abstract stuff. So have any of you practiced any type of dharana meditation, the single point of focus? Yeah. Yeah, it's nice to have that. If you're someone who's tactile, right? You need that feeling of crap, how many am I on? You don't have to worry about keeping count and things like that. The other thing that's cool about mala is it's said that, typically you're going to use the same mantra with the mala, right? Look up the number 108. There's all sorts of, different connotations with it, but we can spend a whole hour-long class talking about that. But it's said that when your mala breaks, you have fulfilled your mantra, right? Or it's worked, if whatever mantra you're working with, if it's Ganesh mantra and you're removing some obstacle in your life, when the mala breaks, it's said that mantra is fulfilled. So you get to move on to a new mantra. Oh yeah. Yeah. It was my favorite one. And I walked out of a class and it just went poof, it exploded. It was the craziest thing. I was like, whoa. I guess that one's done.
My favorite one started falling apart, and it was my first one that I got from Shoshone, and it was just and it started fraying and falling apart. So I hung it up on my jewelry stand, on the highest bar to just hang there because I don't want it to break. Please no. It's so I don't know, when you sit there and count and you do them over and over again, it's almost like you built this attachment to it. And like, I just wasn't ready for it to break.
Yeah, I was very sad when mine broke. It's very sad. But that's how it goes. Okay, so moving on to dhyana, or absorption. This one is where you drop the techniques and there's really no separation. You're not aware that you're meditating, you just are, right? You're absorbed in the meditation. There's no separation. You're not even the witness. This one's again, we're getting into experiential stuff. So it's like, I've experienced this type of meditation, but to tell you what the experience is like, words fail it, right? So if you've ever had this experience, it's like time has elapsed and maybe you feel like you've been meditating for 5 minutes, but when you come out and you look at your watch, it's like, whoa, I've been here for a half hour, and it doesn't feel like that, right? And you don't feel like you're working, and you don't feel like, you've been pulled in 800 different directions. You just are. Does that make sense? Have you ever had this experience? Ryan, I see you nodding on me. Yeah. But right, like you can't
It's
fully, yeah.
It's a weird feeling.
Yeah, it's, and it might just be for a split second, right? You might only feel that for a split second, and then a thought will come in, right? And then you might have some experiences that last longer, but all of those are leading you up to samadhi, which is bliss, wholeness, balanced awareness. And again, it's one of those things that is like, words fail it. Because until you have that experience, I can tell you all the different words for it, but you're never going to truly understand it. This is where it's like, you have that spark of knowing, right? You've been in your meditation. You've been in that state of absorption where there's no separation between the act of meditating and you. And then you have this like bling of clear awareness. You learn something, and then you come back and you have to apply that to your life, right? And it's easy to get trapped into that feeling of like, that was an amazing feeling and I want to stay there, right? The second you start to recognize that you are having a moment of samadhi, you are like right back in your body, right? It's the harder you grasp at it, the farther away from you it gets, okay? And it's kind of like, the Buddhists might describe it as nirvana, or the Western blanket term of enlightenment, which actually means nothing, right? It's not really a thing. But yeah, I'll share an experience with you. And it was a fire meditation. I was doing a fire meditation, and I was sitting there and I'm like, okay, I'm watching the fire, and then I close my eyes. And I'm, doing the breath techniques, doing all the things. And I had a moment of like that total absorption. Like I was aware-ish that I was meditating, but like I wasn't working hard to meditate. And then all of a sudden I felt my feet disappear into the earth. I felt my upper body being pulled into the heavens, and like I burst into molecules for a moment. And then I was like, whoa, boom, right back down. And I was just like, what just happened? What was that? Right. And so it's like, this understanding of, I don't know, like just this whole deeper connection, I guess, is what I came out of it with. But it was like this really powerful meditation. But like, to tell you the experience, like those words, nope, does nothing for what happened, right? So, you may have those moments, and it doesn't have to, honestly, samadhi doesn't have to be this big, profound thing like that. It can happen in every day. It can happen in the simplest moments, right? Where you walk out your front door and you catch a whiff of all of the spring blossoms that are blooming, right? And you feel that connection to the earth. It can happen, you know, coming out of a yoga class, like where you are fully in that sattvic state. What's sattva? Balance. Yep, that clear awareness, that balance. You know, coming out of that sattvic state, you have that just awareness, and you brought something with you from that awareness, right? Has anyone had an experience like that? Yeah. Do you want to tell me about it so I don't have to talk?
Mine was at a sound bath.
Okay.
Me and my husband, my father-in-law all went to one somewhere over here. I don't really know. And me and my husband were just holding hands, laying down. And it felt like we weren't even holding hands anymore. We were just combined in a way. And it made me giggle. Again. And then I was laughing, and then we just both got out of it. And I explained to him. He was like, yeah, he felt that too.
Yeah.
And he got out of it as soon as I left.
Yeah. But it's like, you know, to explain it to someone else, it's like, yeah, this is what happened. And they're just like, yeah, okay, whatever.
Sure.
But like, you're like, no, I felt something deep, you know, but like, it is like samadhi, you know, when you read like texts and things like that, like yogic texts, you know, there's like chapters and chapters on pratyahara and dharana and dhyana, and then you get to samadhi and it's like this, right? Because it's like, yeah, you just,
Difficult to put into words.
yeah,
It kind of seems like the more you say about it, the further away you get from it.
exactly.
Is samadhi something that might be more natural for someone to get into versus like another, or is it just something that all need, that like everyone to get to, you have to work towards, kind of? You know what I'm trying to say?
So here's the thing. I think samadhi, this state of bliss, is something that we're all capable of. And I guarantee you, each of you has experienced it. You just didn't have the word to put to it.
Right, because like I'm trying to, like, I'm like thinking, I'm like, I feel this, and I feel like I know how to get there too. Like, it's like you kind of zone out the eyes for a minute in a way that's not zoning them out. You focus on the breath, and then you're kind of just like here. But I'm like, that seems too simple. But I don't know, so it's interesting.
Yeah. It, like I said, it can be a really profound experience. It can be a life-changing experience. It can happen like things like childbirth, or being present for, you know, someone dying, things like that. It could be a really like powerful thing, or like I said, it can be really mundane. Like you could walk out of your house and just like feel the sunshine on your body and be present and aware to feel that and have that moment of just pure joy and bliss. And it's not joy and bliss because of, it just is.
Yeah. So yeah, that kind of, I feel like, filters out my question to like, does something have to happen first in the physical world for you to experience samadhi, or could you just experience samadhi?
Absolutely. But I think a lot of times, like, it's such a, for many of us, right, we're so like bombarded with all of the things, right? Like, got to get up. I have a schedule that I have to follow. I have to get myself out the door, sit in traffic, do the thing. I've got a work deadline that I've got to meet. I've got food to put on the table, things like that. Whatever it is that's going on in your world, you're constantly bombarded with it. So you're not as aware of the subtle. And we are so conditioned out of sensing the subtle stuff, right? We're so conditioned out of like noticing the little things that it's easy for us to be like, nah, I know that's samadhi. What the heck is that thing? I'm never going to get there. Right. And a lot of us have to work to it. Like there are a lot of people that have to work to have those experiences, to quiet their minds so that they can get to that space. But when you are more practiced in pausing and you're more practiced in noticing things that are around you, it can be more easy to experience these things. All of these things are readily available to us. Like all of these different classical practices are readily available to us. We are part of that, right? But, you know, I mean, think about someone, you know, 1,000+ years ago, you know, sitting down in India next to the river and, you know, sitting down and meditating. Well, maybe they only had to sit there for a couple minutes to experience these things because they didn't have all of the things like bombarding them, right? You know, monks that spend their time meditating and have little to no other cares, you know, probably a lot easier to access these spaces than us, right? Like we've got all sorts of like technology in our faces, bombarding us from all different angles, you know, all of this stuff. And it's like way harder to tune out the noise, right? There's so much like static thrown at us all the time. So it's a lot harder for us to understand and realize that this stuff is accessible. And you're probably experiencing it, or you probably have the capacity to experience it very easily. But you have to be able to shut off the rest of it. And now my ear is doing something weird and I can only hear out of one ear. That was weird. Thanks. Thanks, body. Make sense? Not really? Kind of?
Well, and I've read things like when they're talking about that state of bliss or those downloads of information that you get in meditation. Like I've read things where they say you're not even really supposed to share that necessarily.
Yeah.
Because like you said, the words will fail it.
Yeah.
Because like I have so many words that I'd love to tell you all right now about those experiences, and like I mean, I tried to do it on Tuesday because my weekend was filled with that. Everything felt interconnected. Everything made sense. Like things from my childhood, like 20 years ago, lined up with a specific date. Well, 20 years from now. So like it's a really weird place.
Yeah. And the feeling that you feel is way more like intense than you can ever describe to someone. And, you know, careful who you talk to, because that person might be like, do you need to seek someone?
Yeah.
Do you need therapy? But,
Yeah,
right? Like,
absolutely.
and it's true though. Like, you know, I remember like some of the experiences I've like told other people and they're like, are you okay?
Mhm.
Like, yeah, I'm great. Are you okay? Why are you not on this level? Right?
Absolutely.
You know, and it's just, I don't know. But the thing is though, like, you have to remember that when you experience those things, you have to come back to your body, right? And while, you know, yes, you're not necessarily supposed to try to even put words to it because yes, words fail and it's your experience of it, right? It's not for anyone else and you don't ever want to color someone else's experience of it. But yet you get to use what you've gleaned from those experiences to make you a better person, to live a better life while you're here in your body, right? And so, you know, it's just one of those, I don't know.
Is there a relation between samadhi and like the golden thread?
How so?
Like you were talking about how like for so many things came together. Like it's magic. Like that would be like an example of the golden thread. And he connected that to feeling samadhi. So I guess what I'm trying to say is are they interconnected? Like you'll always have both at the same time, kind of, or is it like you could have both, but you could also not?
Yeah. I mean, maybe. I mean, there was no golden thread when I had that huge experience. I was like, just sat down to do a fire meditation. What happened to my body? Like, what was that? You know, and I was like, there's not even drugs involved. What is going on? That's weird. You know, yeah, I mean, there could be. There very well could be. And there could not be. So, yeah. I don't know. Okay, before we get too far ahead, I do want to lead you through a meditation. Let me get my list of meditations pulled up. And I think we'll do do like a body scan meditation with some other elements. So if you need to stand up and stretch, just so that you are ready to sit, please do so. Try not to leave the room unless you have to use the bathroom. Just take a moment to like stretch, do what you need to do to get yourself ready to sit. And I am gonna decide which meditation we're gonna do. I gotta plug this in. Ooh, we're at 26%.
I'm at like a 3% on mine. I did not charge before class.
Nightmare.
Technology failing.
Actually, I had the yoga teacher nightmare the other night. Oh my Lord.
What is that? The yoga teacher nightmare.
Have you not had this? You
Well,
walk
tell
in
me
the-
what it
you
is.
walk
Maybe
in
I
the-
have.
You walk in to teach and like the class is just like so scattered and everybody's talking and doing their own thing. And you're like, okay, time to get started. And they like start for a minute and then you're teaching and everybody's doing their own thing. Nobody will listen to you. There's like party in the back, conversations happening, people walking in and out of the room. And you're just like, I have lost control of my life. It's terrible. It's like the worst because I'm not a very assertive person. So I'm just like, well, I guess I'm just gonna sit here. I'm just gonna sit here in the corner and let y'all do what you're doing.
Haven't had that dream before.
Gosh. It happens all the time. I'm just like, pay attention. We're doing something. You paid to be here.
I have a dream that like I can't stop people from doing dangerous things in class. Like I'll like
Okay,
be
yeah, that's
teaching
not the same.
and people are just doing things that are very dangerous and I'm like, I don't know what to do. What if someone gets hurt or falls over? Like I just and it's like all the information just leaves my brain and I'm anxious.
Yeah. 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 There are people doing all kinds of wacky stuff. Stop leaving. All right. On that note, listen to me. So find your tall seat. So play around with your seat. Maybe you need to be lifted a little bit higher. Maybe you need some cushion on your knees. You all seem to be doing pretty good there, but I'm practicing together. So you can take a mudra if you'd like. I'll offer up just a simple focus mudra is the word I'm looking for. Gyan mudra. So tip of your first finger and your thumb touch, the rest of your fingers extend out. You can have palms up for a little more openness and receptivity, or you can bring palms down for more grounding and concentration. So just depending on wherever you are, it's up to you. And if you hate the mudra, you don't have to do it. It's up to you. You can let your eyes close or find a gaze at a soft point in front of you. I always suggest starting your meditation with either your sankalpa or your intention. So just like when you practice yoga asana, having an intention brings more benefit to the practice. Have something that you're working towards. So whether you're using your sankalpa or you're using an intention, take a moment here to repeat it a few times. Begin to feel the emotion of it. And then let it settle into your heart. Let your mind softly focus on your breath. You might choose a point of focus, maybe the tip of your nose where the air enters and exits your nostrils, or even maybe at the center of your chest, where your chest rises and falls with the breath. If your mind starts to wander, notice that your mind is wandering. And give it a simple label, thought, distraction, whatever sounds appropriate. Release your need to follow that thought. And then come back to your breath. And slowly allow your breath to deepen, allowing the belly to soften forward on the inhale. And find a gentle tone in your belly as you exhale. As I move you through your sense awareness, keep about 25% or so awareness on your breath. Know that if you get distracted or agitated with any of the sense experience, then just come back to your breath. Start to become aware of your body as a whole, without labeling any parts, without labeling any sensations. Simply awareness of your body, of your form. You can mentally create a picture of your body if that feels good, and feel your body as a whole. Trying to be aware of as many sensations as you can throughout your whole body. Refining your awareness. Start to be aware of the sensations on your skin, starting at the bottoms of your feet. Simply be aware and witness without judgment. After a few breaths, allow the awareness of your skin to move up to your lower legs, paying attention to how the clothes feel on your body against your skin. Or maybe the pressure of the floor feels on your lower legs. Is your skin cool or warm, dry or oily? And slowly, as you're ready, continue to allow your awareness to move to your upper legs, your hips, your low belly, and so on. Paying close attention to your fingers, your palms, your arms and shoulders. Feel the sensations on your face, your cheeks. Are they warm and flush? Are they cool and dry? Your forehead, your chin, your nose, and lips. You might even move your tongue in your mouth to feel the saliva in your mouth. Shifting your focus ever so slightly. Turn your focus to the sounds of your environment. Expand your hearing and awareness to let in as many sounds as possible, even those that you're making by breathing, by shifting in your seat. Try listening without putting a name or a label on it. Notice how each sound occurs, each moment, coming and going, moment to moment, second to second. Slightly shift your focus again to notice scents around you. What do you smell? Simply let them be there without attaching to whether you like it or dislike it. You can notice if it's strong or subtle, sweet or pungent. And then notice taste. Maybe you just ate or drank something that you can still taste. Or maybe your saliva has a particular taste. Be aware of your eyes. Let them roll side to side, up and down, and even in circles behind your eyelids. Feel the sensations of your eyes against the eyelids, but also notice the light and the shade shifting. Pay attention to any patterns or colors that arise without attaching to them. And become aware of the frame of your body. Feel the bones beneath the surface of your skin and muscle. Pay particular attention to the structure and the stability that your bones provide. Maybe even visualize how your lower leg bones attach to your upper leg bones, attach to your hips, how everything is connected. See the bones as separate from yourself, and feel your spine from bottom to top. You can allow your awareness to rest at the base of your spine and try to feel and visualize each of the different parts as you slowly move your awareness to the top of your spine. Now slowly let the sense awareness move into the background. Take a few moments to return to an open and clear awareness of the present moment. Begin to invite in a gentle ujjayi breath. Finding that gentle constriction at the back of your throat. As you breathe in, visualize and sense the white or gold light of prana moving up your spine. And as you breathe out, feel and sense the energy and the light of prana moving down your spine. As you breathe in, you're drawing in life force energy, nourishing your mind, your body, your spirit. And as you breathe out, releasing, letting go, grounding, keeping you here and now. Each time you breathe in, that light, that glowing gold or white light gets brighter and stronger and moves higher up your spine. With each breath out, releasing just a little bit more. This awareness of the present moment, you might begin to cultivate a sense of gratitude. Gratitude for your practice. You might call to mind a specific aspect or simply a general sense of gratitude. Start to release the techniques. Bring your awareness back to that gentle breath. Notice the air on the surface of your body. The sounds near and in the distance. Back to the sensations. Before you close your meditation completely, once again, call to mind either your sankalpa or your intention. Repeat it a few times. And then draw a deep breath in. Gentle exhale, release. Take another deep breath in, maybe lift your chin. And as you exhale, draw your chin down and back. And then let your eyes flutter open. Be gentle with your body as you start to kind of wiggle out of your seat a little bit. This floor is really hard to sit on, even with a cushion. So take a moment to like stretch out if you need to, or anything like that. If you'd like to share anything from your meditation, I would love to hear it. Laura's gonna be mad at me. I got you all sleepy now. Yes. Mm. Okay.
For the second half of it, my back was just hurting
Mm.
and like my shoulders.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't focus for the rest.
Yeah.
It was just going on.
Yeah. So, you know, things to do to help yourself, especially if you're going to do a little bit longer of a meditation, is to sit up against a wall, but make sure that when you do that, that you have some support behind your low back, and maybe even like a rolled up towel at the base of your neck, because the tendency is going to be to sit up against the wall, and if your butt is not up against the wall and your upper back, you're going to start to do this, right? You're going to start to slump and round, and that's going to cause even more discomfort. You know, the posture for meditation is important. Generally, I mean, can you lie down? Yeah, you can. It's not preferred because chances are you're going to fall asleep, right? And it's more of an alert and aware posture to sit. So if you can sit, do, but get yourself comfortable to a point where you can sustain it. So you kind of have to play around with different levels of height and things like that. Yeah. I know when I first started meditating, I was like, oh God, I can't. Like, I want to be here, but I can't. I get it. Yeah, I get it.
I had some cool experiences going on. I did realize that like sometimes my body would like lean forward and then it would like snap myself backwards. Like I wouldn't do it, but like my body would just do it, and like it wasn't disturbing, but like it was like what was that?
You're in good company.
Yeah, that was
You're in good company. Yeah, I was a lot of you.
I could feel like myself smile sometimes. And then when you brought attention to like our prana, I kind of like saw like myself in like a shadow form, like in a distance away from me. And like there was like yellow auras and like it would turn white and then like it kind of like be white and then turn gold like and come into me. And that was really cool to witness.
Oh, it's so beautiful. Thanks for sharing. Love it. Yeah, that leaning is totally normal. That like bobbing, I was like, I had that experience too in like, you know, my first meditation teacher training where I was like, why am I doing this? Does anybody else see this? What is happening? Like, yeah, and it's, you know, you're moving some energy, you're moving some prana. I mean, it very well can be your body physically getting tired, right? And trying to move into its comfortable shape, and then you're like, nope, I'm doing a thing, right? But yeah, it's definitely common. It's definitely common.
How long was that?
Just under 20 minutes.
Yeah. I didn't realize it.
Yeah.
I was like, I feel like it's been a long time that I can actually meditate. I feel like, oh, I just did meditation, not like, because like I always remember you say, if you have something come up and it's okay, just stop, like throw it away. You can still go. Because I'm just like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Plan it out by week. Here we go.
Yeah, but that was really good.
Good.
And then surprise is 20 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. I was trying to do a longer meditation, but not so long that like I'd lose you all. Because yeah.
I jolted forward and like came out of it. But kind of my breath, like my breathing got so slow.
Yeah. There's a couple of things that you can do. So some things that will happen, right? Your body will physically get tired. if your body physically gets tired and you feel like you're going to fall asleep, you can either slightly tip your chin up or visualize a light. Visualize a really bright light and it'll help to wake you up. If your mind gets tired, right, like your mind will start to get into this like torpor where it's like slow and sluggish. What you can do is give yourself a task. So if you find that like, okay, I'm following your voice, but I'm getting like this really slow, sluggish mind happening, which is not great. You don't want like your mind to get sluggish. Give it a task, right? So maybe you count a breath or something like that, or you bring in a mantra, anything that you need to do to bring the energy back up. You know, the other thing that I hear too is like, my leg fell asleep. Am I allowed to move it? You can move it. It's okay. You know, it's this fine line between learning to sit with the discomfort, right? Because that's really what we're doing, right? Is sometimes we're going to bring up some really uncomfortable stuff. And so learning to sit with the discomfort of being human versus pain. I don't want you to ever move into a pain situation, right? So, you know, if you are uncomfortable and you need to move your leg because it fell asleep and like, you know, your brain goes into hypochondriac anxiety mode and you're like, oh no, I'm doing nerve damage in my leg. I'm never going to be able to use my leg again, right? Just move it. It's fine. But move it in a way that is part of the meditation, right? You're aware that you are moving your leg. So you're going to like, it could be something as simple as moving my right leg, moving my left leg, right? Or however you need to do it so that you're not just like, oh God, my legs, right? Because now all the work that you've done to build yourself up into that state is gone. So just do it really mindfully. You know, and like the whole, like, I have an itch on my nose, can I scratch it? You can, but it's fun to focus on it and see where it moves. Because it's gonna move.
Fun
Your
is a
mind.
weird word to describe that, I think.
What's that?
Fun is a weird word to describe that, I think.
You know, I don't know, I find it fascinating because it's like your brain is like, pay attention, pay attention, pay attention to me. I want to be in charge, right? And it's like, okay, you have an itch. Okay, I'm gonna focus on that itch. Okay, it's gonna intensify. It's gonna get really bad and I'm gonna really want to scratch it. And then it's gonna move. And now your ear is itchy. Yeah, okay, brain, I'm in charge here. Me, not you. So, I don't know. Okay, before we have to leave each other, let's talk about some ways that you can incorporate some of these things that we've learned into your standard class. So it's not like, you know, you're not really going to have a whole lot of time to like open the class with a meditation or close the class with a meditation. There's going to be those times, you know, those brief moments that maybe that'll happen, but generally speaking, not so much. So like one of the things that you can do is, so like before class, during class, and after, and ending the class, right? So before class, you might just kind of like check in with people. You're checking in, kind of seeing where their energy level is and figuring out like, okay, do I need to incorporate any specific breath work or anything like that to get them going? A simple, quick little breath awareness meditation before class to help settle and ground is really beneficial, right? So like maybe before child's pose, you have them just take 3 minutes to just sit and breathe, right? Just sit and breathe for 3 minutes. Simple breath meditation, child's pose, do your thing. You might like bring in a Kapalabhati right before core to help energize and tone the core. You might bring a visualization, like a chakra visualization, to help bring focus or awareness to a particular body part. During class, there's some really cool things that you can do. So like when you're moving one breath per movement, right, you can remind your students to focus on the breath. Right, so don't worry so much about the alignment part of it. Simply focus on inhale and exhale, really working on that, kind of like a moving meditation. You can have them engage their senses during asana, so feeling the feet on the earth in Tadasana, really bringing in that body awareness. Hearing the sounds in the room, including your own heart and breath. feeling the energy of muscle engagement, staying fully present in the moment, all these different things like that you can start to incorporate, right? Like if you're in a balance, feeling your foot press against the earth, different things like that. What other ideas? Or maybe things that you've heard teachers do in class.
This might not be the same thing, but like when you're doing balances, finding a space of something to hold your gaze and kind of like that secret object that we were talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. So your drishti, your gaze, your focal point, absolutely. So that helps with that single pointed focus, right? Yeah, awesome.
One time I was in a yoga class and the teacher just stopped the class in the middle of class and we all came down to our mats and did like a quick meditation and went back to the asana.
Interesting. Cool.
Maybe when at the end of the integration when they set their intention.
Yeah, when they set their intention, absolutely. You know, when you're holding, right? So you're in those 3 to 5 breath holds. It can get really intense sometimes. So reminding them to use their breath and stay present to those sensations. So really being in their body instead of like, oh my God, when is she gonna say no more chair? Oh my God, I need to get out of this chair, right? Instead, feel the strength in your legs, feel the power in your legs, right? While I make you hold it for 10 breaths. I've never done that. I've never done that. I mean, even in particularly like hip openers, like lizard lunge and pigeon. Yeah, those are typically like at the end of class, like your students are checking out. Like bring them back into their body, right? They're like, yep, we're in pigeon, baby. We're all done now, right? And then like the whole end of the, come on, you've all been there.
I know.
I know, I've
that was
been
a good
there.
expression.
So yeah. Ending class. So like as you start to move them into Shavasana, right, you'll notice a lot of times, especially if you have like a lot of people that are like, yeah, power yoga, right? Like they're fidgety in Shavasana. They are fidgety as they're like laying down. Take them through a quick little body scan as they're starting to settle into Shavasana. Doesn't have to be long, right? Feel your feet, feel your lower legs, right? All these things. You can even do like a visualization at the beginning of Shavasana to draw their focus mentally. Or, I mean, depending on time, it's not very often that you'll have this, but sometimes you'll get like overzealous in some beat, right? And you're finishing class really early and you're like, crap, 15-minute Shavasana is not going to work for most of these people. So like, you know, you could do a longer Shavasana and draw them out and offer a little meditation or a little breath work, you know, at the end of class if you have time. You want to be mindful of your students' time though and not go over. So like if you're like, all right, 5-minute Shavasana, I can squeeze in that minute meditation. No, don't do that. Just end there, you know, or even close with a mantra, right? You can bring them up and have them chant a mantra like Om Shanti Shanti Shanti, you know, different things like that. Lots of different ways that you can incorporate this stuff, but you know, it can seem like a lot to do, especially when you're still in that state of like memorizing the sequence and things like that. But, you know, as you practice and as you go into classes that you're taking, like pay attention to these little things that we do. And, you know, now hopefully you have a better understanding of why it is that we're doing these things. Because we have an hour, right? We've got an hour in most cases to like throw the seeds at you or shine the little flashlight and be like, hey, look over here. Hey, look over here, right? When most students, ice cream truck just went by.
Is that what that sound was?
Squirrel. You know, like most people come for the asana part of it, right? And so like, this is where we get to be like, hey, there's other stuff to this yoga thing. Like, it's not just your body. There's other stuff that we can mess around with, you know, and like, you know, you get this chance to introduce people to it. And so those are the little things, the little nuggets that are going to keep your students coming to you, along with your amazing personalities. Like, you know, you could all leave here and teach the same exact sequence, but you're all going to teach it in your own way. And that's where your students are gonna really come to you, so. Questions, comments, thoughts? Yes.
This has been a long part of the day. I think that's because our energy has been like a lot of this. That's all.
Okay. All right. So yeah, I'll release the recorded things. So you'll, like I said, take your time, start with the pranayama, do that for like at least 3 days. Give each one at least 3 days to practice them before you move on to the next. And let me know, how your meditation practices are shaping up. If you're starting a pranayama practice, it's important to have a good sense of who you are when you step in front of your students, right? And having these tools to really ground you and center you before you step in front of someone is really important. So I can't wait to hear all about it. Let me know, reach out if you have questions about any of it. I'm happy to answer. But yeah. Party on. As my husband always says, have good mosh pitting. He's a weirdo. Laura is coming today. Yeah. I thought we switched them up, so she was here today. Where are we? Yeah, so she'll be here from 1 to 3. We've got a few minutes. So if you need to open the back door, you can open the back door, get some fresh air, whatever you need to do, go to the bathroom. I'm gonna stop this recording here.
I'll see you guys next Tuesday.